Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What If. So in this video, we will see what if Ben died and the Omnitrix chose a new wielder. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Watch chooses the memorial statue of Ben Tennyson caught the last rays of sunset, turning the bronze figure a fiery gold. Mako-chan sat cross-legged at its base, hood pulled low over their face, watching tourists snap photos and leave small tributes. 6 months since the hero's death, and people still came daily. You'd hate this, wouldn't you? Mako muttered to the statue. All this. I dunno, reverence. Never seemed your style. Mako pulled out a small notebook filled with newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, and sketched alien forms. Conspiracy theories about Ben 10 had been Mako's obsession for years, well before his death. The official story, that Ben died in an explosion during a mission, never sat right. Too clean. Too convenient. A security guard approached, tapping his watch. Park's closing, kid. Yeah. Mako stuffed the notebook away, grabbed their skateboard, and stood. See ya tomorrow, hero. The ride home cut through downtown Bellwood, now rebuilt after countless alien invasions. Mako weaved through pedestrians, mind elsewhere. Their phone buzzed with a notification, another ping from their alien detection app. Usually just satellite debris or weather balloons, but this one made Mako stop short. The reading came from an abandoned building on the edge of town, an old plumber's outpost according to Mako's research. And this wasn't just any reading. The energy signature matched only one thing in Mako's database, the Omnitrix. No way, Mako whispered, heart pounding. No freaking way. 20 minutes later, Mako stood before a decrepit warehouse, chain-link fence torn open. The place looked abandoned for years, not months. The app showed the signal pulsing inside. Either this is the real deal, or I'm about to get murdered by squatters, Mako muttered, squeezing through a broken window. The warehouse interior was mostly empty except for scattered crates and forgotten equipment. Mako's phone light swept across dust-covered surfaces. The signal led toward a back corner where a section of floor looked different. Mako knelt down, brushing away dust to reveal a seam. Hidden door. Seriously? A thrill ran up their spine. Conspiracy theorist for the win. After 15 minutes of searching, Mako found the release mechanism. The floor panel slid away with a grinding sound, revealing metal stairs descending into darkness. Oh man, Mako whispered, excitement drowning out common sense. Secret alien base. This is either the best or last day of my life. The stairway led to a small underground facility, definitely plumber tech, matching photos from Mako's research. Most equipment was gone, but emergency lights still functioned on backup power. The signal grew stronger toward a sealed door at the far end. Mako approached cautiously, noting scorch marks around the door frame. Whatever happened here, it wasn't peaceful. The door itself was partially melted, as if something burning hot had blown through it. Hello. Mako called, immediately regretting it. Great horror movie move, Chen. No response came. Using a piece of metal as leverage, Mako pried the damaged door open enough to squeeze through. The room beyond was a disaster. Shattered equipment, blackened walls, and in the center, a small containment unit, cracked open. The signal blared from Mako's phone now. Inside the containment unit, nestled in protective foam, sat what looked like a heavily damaged watch. Green and black, with an unfamiliar symbol on its face. Holy crap. Mako's voice came out barely audible. That's it. That's the Omnitrix. But it looked wrong, scarred, parts of its surface blackened and warped. The iconic hourglass symbol was cracked down the middle. As Mako leaned closer, the device suddenly sparked with green energy. Mako jerked back. Whoa! The energy pulsed again, stronger this time. Something about it felt alive. Like it was responding to Mako's presence. "You're supposed to be destroyed," Mako whispered. "They said you blew up with him." Another pulse, almost beckoning. Against every survival instinct, Mako reached toward it. "I just want to see." The moment Mako's fingers brushed the device, it sprang to life. Metal components suddenly liquefied, wrapping around Mako's wrist like tendrils. Pain shot up their arm as the device seemed to meld with their skin. "Ah! Get off!" Mako screamed, clawing at the device now firmly attached to their wrist. "Stop!" Green energy coursed through Mako's body, dropping them to their knees. Images flashed through their mind, aliens, battles, faces they didn't recognize but somehow knew. Ben's memories. The device's database. Then just as suddenly, it stopped. Mako collapsed to the floor, breathing hard, staring at what was now unmistakably the Omnitrix on their wrist, repaired, whole, looking almost new. "What the hell just happened?" Mako gasped between breaths. A soft green glow emanated from the watch face as its surface shifted, reconfiguring into a sleeker design than the one Ben had worn. "No, no, no," Mako scrambled to their feet. "This can't be happening. I'm just some random kid. I can't." The watch face suddenly projected a small holographic display showing alien silhouettes rotating in sequence. Mako froze, transfixed by the display. "Is this for real? Are you choosing me?" The device beeped in what sounded almost like confirmation. Before Mako could process this further, a crash echoed from above. Voices. Multiple people entering the warehouse. "Energy signature came from down here. Secure the area. If it's active, we need to." Panic surged through Mako. Whoever these people were, they were after the Omnitrix. And now it was stuck to their wrist. "How do I get out of here?" Mako hissed, looking for another exit. As if responding to the thought, the Omnitrix's display shifted, showing an alien form Mako recognized from news footage, a blue moth-like creature. XLR-8? No, that wasn't right. Big chill. "You want me to use you?" Mako whispered, incredulous. Footsteps on the metal stairs now. Seconds away. With shaking fingers, Mako touched the display. "Please work." The transformation was nothing like the videos. Pain ripped through Mako as bones cracked and reshaped, skin hardened into exoskeleton, internal organs shifted. A scream became an alien shriek as wings burst from their back and icy breath filled unfamiliar lungs. When it ended, Mako stood there, 7 feet tall, blue, with massive wings and compound eyes. "This is insane," Mako said, voice now a raspy whisper. "I'm Big Chill." The door to the room burst open. 3 figures in tactical gear stood there, weapons raised. Not plumbers, their insignia showed an eclipse symbol Mako didn't recognize. "Freeze," one shouted, then seemed to register what they were looking at. "It's active. Target has transformed." "I didn't mean to." Mako raised clawed hands. "I don't know how." A blast from one of their weapons cut off Mako's words, searing past where they stood. Instinct took over, Mako went intangible, the sensation bizarre as molecular density shifted. "Don't let it escape," the leader shouted. Mako phased backward through the wall, then up through the ceiling, emerging inside the warehouse. More armed figures were spreading out through the building. Think, Mako muttered. Big Chill can fly and phase through stuff. Without conscious decision, massive wings spread and Mako shot upward, phasing through the warehouse roof into the night sky. The sensation was indescribable, freedom unlike anything Mako had ever experienced. For a moment, the panic subsided as they soared higher, city lights spreading out below. "I'm flying," Mako whispered in awe. "I'm actually flying." The wonder lasted only seconds before reality crashed back. "Mako. Had just stolen, or been chosen by, the universe's most powerful device, transformed into an alien, and was now being hunted by unknown forces. I need help, Mako realized. I need someone who knows about this stuff. Only one name came to mind, Gwen Tennyson, Ben's cousin. Last Mako heard, she still lived in Bellwood, attending college while continuing her work with the plumbers. Finding her apartment wasn't difficult. Mako had mapped out all known associates of Ben Tennyson years ago during research binges. The challenge would be not getting blasted the moment she saw an alien at her window. Gwen Tennyson was hunched over her laptop, surrounded by open books on interdimensional theory, when frost began forming on her window. She noticed immediately, mana energy gathering at her fingertips as she turned. "Whoever you are," she called, "I'm really not in the mood for uninvited guests." The window fogged completely before a blue spectral form phased through it. Big Chill stood in her living room, wings wrapped around itself like a cloak. Gwen's eyes widened before narrowing dangerously, pink energy flaring brighter. "Who are you?" she demanded. "That form belongs to," her voice caught. "Belonged to my cousin." "I know. I know." Big Chill raised its hands. "Please don't blast me. I didn't mean for this to happen." "Start talking," Gwen said, not lowering her hands. "How are you using that form?" "The Omnitrix," Big Chill, Mako, said desperately. "It attached itself to me. I found it in some abandoned plumber base and it just jumped on me." "That's impossible," Gwen said, but doubt flashed across her face. "The Omnitrix was destroyed with Ben." "That's what I thought too. But look," Big Chill touched the symbol on its chest, and in a flash of green light, transformed back to human form. Mako stood there, a teenager in a hoodie and jeans, looking terrified and exhilarated all at once. The Omnitrix gleamed on their wrist. Gwen stared in shock. "That's not possible." She stepped closer, studying the device. "That looks like, but it can't be." "I swear I didn't steal it," Mako said quickly. "I found it damaged in some containment unit. When I touched it, it grabbed me and fixed itself. Then these people showed up with weapons and—" "What people?" Gwen interrupted, suddenly alert. "I don't know. They wore black tactical gear with some kind of Eclipse logo. They definitely knew what the Omnitrix was and were trying to take it." Gwen's expression darkened. She pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. "Kevin, get over here. Now." She ended the call without waiting for a response. Mako shifted nervously. "So, you believe me?" Gwen's eyes snapped back to Mako. "I don't know what to believe. But if what you're saying is true, we have a major problem." She gestured to the couch. "Sit. And don't touch that thing again until we figure this out." Mako nodded, collapsing onto the couch as adrenaline began to fade. "I'm Mako, by the way. Mako Chen." "I know who you are," Gwen replied, surprising them. "You've been showing up at Ben's memorial almost every day for months. Security flagged you as a potential problem." Mako winced. "I'm not a stalker or anything. I've been researching him for years. The aliens, the Omnitrix. I knew something about the official story of his death didn't add up." Gwen's expression softened slightly. "Well, at least we agree on that." Before the conversation could continue, the apartment door burst open. Kevin Levin stormed in, looking ready for a fight. His eyes landed on Mako, then the device on their wrist. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "Kevin, this is Mako," Gwen said quickly. "And apparently, that's the Omnitrix." Kevin's expression darkened as he approached Mako. "That's not possible. That thing died with Ben." "That's what I thought too," Mako said, shrinking back from Kevin's intimidating presence. "But it found me. Or chose me. I don't know." Kevin reached for Mako's wrist, but Gwen stopped him. "Wait. Mako says people were after it. Eclipse insignia. Kevin froze. Eclipse? You sure about that? He asked Mako. Yeah, like a black sun with rays coming out, Mako confirmed. Mean anything to you? Kevin and Gwen exchanged a look that sent chills down Mako's spine. It might, Kevin said grimly. We've been tracking a group using that symbol for months. They're connected to what happened to Ben. Mako's eyes widened. So he was murdered. The room fell silent. Finally, Gwen spoke. We don't know for sure. But we suspect it wasn't an accident like the official report claims. And now the Omnitrix that supposedly blew up with him is on your wrist, Kevin said, eyeing Mako suspiciously. Pretty convenient timing. I didn't ask for this. Mako protested. I was just following a weird energy reading on my detection app. You're what now? Kevin raised an eyebrow. Mako pulled out their phone, showing the custom app. I built it to detect unusual energy signatures. Been tracking alien activity for years. Gwen leaned in, examining the app with new interest. That's actually impressive. Where did you get the detection algorithms? Wrote them myself, Mako shrugged. Hacked into some old plumber communications for baseline data. No offense. Kevin almost looked impressed. So you're some kind of tech genius stalker? I prefer independent researcher, Mako retorted. Before Kevin could respond, all three phones beeped simultaneously. Breaking news alert. Gwen grabbed the remote, turning on the TV. Breaking news showed chaos downtown. A massive four-armed alien was rampaging through the shopping district. Tetraman, Kevin identified immediately. But there aren't any registered on Earth right now. Not Tetraman, Gwen corrected, eyes narrowing at the screen. Look at the movements. Too mechanical. Mako watched closely. She's right. It's like someone wearing a suit designed to look like a Tetraman. Kevin and Gwen both looked at Mako with surprise. What? Mako shrugged. I told you, I've been studying this stuff for years. Whoever it is, people are going to get hurt, Gwen said, already grabbing her jacket. We need to move. What about me? Mako asked, gesturing to the Omnitrix. You stay here, Kevin said firmly. Last thing we need is an amateur with the most powerful weapon in the universe getting in the way. Mako stood up. But I can help. This thing chose me for a reason. We don't know that, Gwen said gently. For all we know, it just latched onto the first human it found. Until we understand what's happening, it's safer if you stay put. While people get hurt? Mako challenged. Ben wouldn't have stayed put. A flash of pain crossed Gwen's face. Don't. You didn't know him. I know enough, Mako insisted. I know he used that watch to help people, not hide. Kevin stepped between them. Listen, kid. You got lucky once transforming. You have no idea how to actually use that thing. You'll just get yourself killed. Maybe, Mako admitted. But I have to try. Besides, those Eclipse people are after the Omnitrix. What if they track it here? You really want them finding your home? Gwen and Kevin exchanged looks. Reluctantly, Gwen nodded. Fine, Kevin growled. But you follow our lead. You do exactly what we say. First sign of trouble, you get clear. Got it? Mako nodded eagerly. Got it. Totally got it. And no transforming unless absolutely necessary, Gwen added. Cross my heart, Mako promised, already looking at the Omnitrix with excitement. This is a terrible idea, Kevin muttered as they headed for the door. Downtown Bellwood was in chaos. Cars overturned, storefronts shattered, people running in panic. The false Tetraman stood in the center of the destruction, roaring challenges. Ben Tennyson, it bellowed, voice clearly artificial. Face me, Coward. Kevin's car skidded to a stop 2 blocks away. Great. Another Ben fanboy who didn't get the memo. It's a trap, Gwen said, eyes glowing with mana energy as she scanned the area. There are others hiding nearby. This is bait. For Ben? Mako asked. But everyone knows he's, for the Omnitrix, Kevin cut in. They're trying to draw out whoever has it now. Mako instinctively covered the watch with their other hand. What's the plan? I engaged the big guy, Kevin said, touching the pavement to absorb its properties, skin turning to concrete. Gwen contains any collateral and evacuates civilians. You stay hidden. But, Mako started to protest. That's the plan, Gwen said firmly. We need to know who's behind this. Reluctantly, Mako nodded. Fine. I'll hang back. Kevin charged toward the rampaging Tetraman suit while Gwen created mana platforms to reach trapped civilians in damaged buildings. From the shadows, Mako watched the battle unfold. Kevin was holding his own, but the Tetraman suit was surprisingly agile for its size. Meanwhile, just as Gwen predicted, several figures in black tactical gear, the same Eclipse insignia, emerged from hiding spots around the area. They weren't targeting Kevin or Gwen. They were systematically searching buildings, alleys, rooftops, looking for something. Or someone. They're hunting for the Omnitrix, Mako realized. They think Ben's replacement is here somewhere. One Eclipse operative was approaching Mako's position. No time to call for help. Mako ducked behind a dumpster, frantically examining the Omnitrix. Come on, give me something good, Mako whispered, cycling through alien holograms. Most were unrecognizable. Finally, a small, frog-like alien appeared. This guy? Seriously? Mako sighed. Fine, beggars can't be choosers. Pressing down on the dial, Mako felt the transformation take hold, less painful this time, but still disorienting. When it finished, they stood barely 2 feet tall, with large eyes and gray skin. Gray matter, Mako whispered in a high-pitched voice. Super smart but super small. Not ideal for fighting. The Eclipse operative rounded the corner, weapon raised. Think, Mako muttered. I'm the smartest being in 5 galaxies right now. I can figure this out. The operative spotted movement, firing a blast that hit the dumpster. Gray matter leapt, landing on the operative's shoulder before they could react. Hello there. Gray matter called, tapping the operative's helmet. Looking for me? The operative swung wildly, trying to dislodge the tiny alien. Gray matter jumped to a nearby fire escape, analyzing the operative's gear with enhanced intelligence. Interesting design. Neural interface in the helmet, power distribution inefficient, and, oh, is that a weak point in the armor junction? Gray matter observed aloud. With precise calculation, gray matter leapt back onto the operative, tiny fingers finding the exposed wiring between armor plates. One quick adjustment and the operative's suit locked up, immobilizing them. That should hold you, gray matter said smugly, hopping down. Now let's see who's behind that mask. Before gray matter could investigate further, a massive crash interrupted as the Tetraman suit slammed Kevin through a storefront. Kevin! Gray matter called in alarm, forgetting stealth. The Tetraman suit's head swiveled, red visor locking onto the tiny alien. A computerized scan activated. Galvan DNA detected, a mechanical voice announced. Omnitrix energy signature confirmed. Primary target located. Ah, nuts, gray matter muttered as the Tetraman suit abandoned Kevin and charged toward them. Gray matter darted between debris, staying just ahead of the massive fists smashing into the ground. Each impact shook the pavement, sending the tiny alien tumbling. Size disadvantage, significant. Gray matter squeaked, rolling away from another blow. Suddenly, pink energy enveloped the Tetraman suit, holding it in place. Gwen descended on a mana platform, eyes glowing with power. "Get clear," she shouted to Gray Matter. "Working on it." Gray Matter called back, scrambling away from the struggling suit. The suit's systems surged, breaking free from Gwen's restraints. It fired rocket-propelled fists, actually detaching from the arms, straight at Gray Matter. Time slowed as Gray Matter's enhanced intellect calculated trajectories and options. No escape path. Not enough time to dodge. But if the angle of impact was adjusted by precisely 23 degrees. Gray Matter leapt upward at the last second, tiny hands grabbing a protruding bolt on the rocket fist. Using momentum and leverage, they redirected the projectile back toward the suit itself, targeting a visible power coupling on its back. The impact was spectacular. The suit's power core ruptured, sending electrical surges through its systems. The operator inside screamed as control systems failed. The suit collapsed in a smoking heap. Gray Matter landed nearby, breathing hard. Simple physics, really. The Omnitrix symbol on Gray Matter's back beeped and flashed red. In a burst of energy, Mako returned to human form, stumbling slightly. "That was intense," Mako gasped, leaning against a wall. Kevin extracted himself from the damaged storefront, still in concrete form. "What happened to staying hidden?" "You were about to become a concrete pancake," Mako retorted. "You're welcome, by the way." Gwen approached the fallen suit, mana energy probing its systems. "Power's dead. But the pilot's alive." With effort, they pried open the chest cavity of the suit. Inside, a man in an Eclipse uniform lay unconscious, neural interfaces connected to his helmet. "One down," Kevin said, returning to human form. But there were at least 5 others. "Already gone," Gwen confirmed, scanning the area. "They scattered the moment their big guy went down." "They got what they came for," Mako realized. "Confirmation the Omnitrix is active again." "And who has it?" Kevin added grimly. "Your face wasn't exactly hidden during that transformation." Mako's stomach dropped. "So now I'm a target." "Now you're a target," Gwen confirmed. "And we need to figure out what they want with the Omnitrix." Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "We should go," Kevin said, already heading back toward his car. "Unless you want to explain to the cops how the Omnitrix mysteriously reappeared on your wrist 6 months after Ben's death." Mako nodded, following quickly. "What about him?" They gestured to the unconscious Eclipse operative. "Anonymous tip to the plumbers," Gwen said, sending a message on her phone. "They'll take him into custody before local authorities arrive." As they drove away, Mako stared at the Omnitrix, still trying to process everything that had happened. "So what now?" "Now," Kevin said, meeting Mako's eyes in the rearview mirror, "you tell us everything about how you found that watch. And then we figure out why it chose you of all people. And why Eclipse seems to have been waiting for it to reappear," Gwen added softly. The implications hung in the air between them. If Eclipse knew the Omnitrix would return, then perhaps they knew more about Ben's death than anyone realized. Mako looked down at the device that had changed everything in less than a day. "I never asked for this, you know." "Nobody ever does," Gwen said, a sad smile on her lips. "Ben didn't either." Back at Gwen's apartment, Mako sat at the kitchen table while Kevin paced and Gwen examined the Omnitrix from a safe distance. "The energy signature is authentic," she confirmed. "It's definitely the Omnitrix. But something's different about it." "Different how?" Kevin asked. "It's evolved somehow. The configuration, the interface, it's not the same as Ben's last version." Mako flexed their wrist, watching the alien hologram cycle through. "It feels like it's learning from me. Adapting." "That tracks with what we know," Gwen said. "The Omnitrix has always been semi-sentient. It learns from its user." Kevin stopped pacing. "But why you?" "No offense, but you're nobody special." "Thanks," Mako said dryly. He means, Gwen clarified with a sharp look at Kevin, the Omnitrix is the most powerful device in the universe. It wouldn't choose its wielder randomly. Maybe it was desperate. Mako suggested. It was damaged when I found it. Or maybe, Kevin said, leaning against the wall, it didn't choose you at all. Maybe someone wanted you to find it. The suggestion hung heavy in the air. Eclipse, Mako said quietly. It's possible, Gwen admitted. The timing is suspicious. The Omnitrix disappears with Ben, then reappears right as this Eclipse group becomes active. But they tried to kill me to get it, Mako pointed out. Maybe that wasn't the plan, Kevin countered. Maybe you were supposed to find it, but not bond with it. Mako shook their head. No, it definitely chose me. When I touched it, I felt something. Like it was scanning me, evaluating me. The Omnitrix has safeguards, Gwen explained. It won't bond with just anyone. Azimuth designed it that way. Azimuth, Mako repeated. The creator. Is he still around? Could he explain this? Gwen and Kevin exchanged looks. He disappeared after Ben's funeral, Gwen said. No one's heard from him since. So we're on our own, Mako concluded. Not entirely, Kevin said. We still have connections. People who might know something. Gwen nodded. First thing tomorrow, we go to Plumber HQ, Grandpa Max needs to know about this. Magistratus Tennyson. Mako's eyes widened. The actual Magister. The actual grandfather, Gwen corrected with a small smile. And probably the only person besides Azimuth who might understand what's happening. Mako nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by everything. And tonight? Tonight you stay here, Gwen said firmly. Where we can keep an eye on you. And that. She pointed to the Omnitrix. I should call my mom, Mako realized. She'll freak if I don't come home. Tell her you're staying at a friend's, Kevin suggested. But don't mention any of this. The fewer people who know, the better. Mako nodded, stepping away to make the call. Once they were out of earshot, Kevin turned to Gwen. You know what this means, don't you? He asked quietly. Gwen's expression was grim. If the Omnitrix survived, maybe Ben. Don't, Kevin stopped her. We both saw what was left. There's no way he survived that explosion. Gwen looked toward Mako, who was gesturing animatedly on the phone. Then why did his watch choose someone new? Why now? I don't know, Kevin admitted. But I plan to find out. Starting with that Eclipse operative the plumbers picked up. He won't talk easily, Gwen warned. Kevin's expression darkened. They never do at first. Sleep didn't come easily to Mako that night. They lay on Gwen's couch, staring at the Omnitrix in the darkness. Its faint green glow cast eerie shadows on the ceiling. What do you want from me? Mako whispered to it. Why me? The device remained silent, but Mako could swear they felt something, a pulse, a presence, almost like it was listening. Memories of the day's events played through Mako's mind. The transformation to Big Chill had been painful, disorienting. Gray matter less so, but still strange. How had Ben managed to do this so effortlessly? How had he carried the responsibility of such power? Mako thought about the Eclipse operatives, their determined pursuit of the Omnitrix. Whatever they wanted, it couldn't be good. And now Mako was caught in the middle of it all. I'm not a hero, Mako told the silent device. I'm just some kid who was in the wrong place at the right time. The Omnitrix's display suddenly activated, cycling through alien forms before stopping on one Mako recognized from old footage, Diamond Head. Then it cycled again, showing Heat Blast. Then XLR-8. Ben's go to aliens, Mako realized. Are you showing me options? The display flickered again, settling on an alien Mako didn't recognize, humanoid but clearly not human, with strange markings across its skin. What are you trying to tell me? Mako asked. Before Mako could decipher the device's strange behavior, a crash echoed from outside. Glass breaking. Mako sat up just as Gwen burst from her bedroom, hands already glowing with mana. Someone's breaking in, she said, voice calm despite the situation. Kevin emerged seconds later, touching the metal doorknob to armor himself. Eclipse found us. The windows exploded inward as dark figures swung through on repelling lines. For Eclipse operatives, weapons raised. Target acquired, one announced, visor focused on Mako. Secure the Omnitrix. Gwen moved first, mana shields deflecting weapons fire as Kevin charged the nearest operative. Mako scrambled behind the couch, heart pounding. Use the watch. Kevin shouted, grappling with two operatives at once. Mako looked down at the Omnitrix, cycling through aliens frantically. Which one? An operative vaulted over the couch, grabbing Mako by the throat. Disable the bond protocol, he ordered someone over comms. Prepare for extraction. Panicking, Mako slammed down on the Omnitrix dial without selecting an alien. Green energy engulfed them as the transformation took hold. When it cleared, Mako stood nearly 7 feet tall, skin rippling with electrical energy. Conductoid, feedback. This works, feedback grinned, absorbing the energy from the operative's weapon with elongated fingers. This works really well. The absorbed energy surged through feedback's body, redirecting out through the antenna on their head. The blast sent the operative flying across the room, crashing through Gwen's bookshelf. Sorry about the books. Feedback called to Gwen, who was containing another operative in a mana bubble. Less talking, more helping. Kevin shouted, struggling against an operative with enhanced strength. Feedback moved with newfound agility, body crackling with energy. They grabbed the operative attacking Kevin, absorbing the energy from his suit and sending him into unconsciousness. 2 down, Feedback announced. Behind you. Gwen warned. Feedback turned just as something struck their neck, a specialized dart that bypassed the alien's absorption abilities. Pain surged through their system as the Omnitrix symbol began to flash red. No, 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 Feedback gasped, feeling the transformation destabilize. The remaining operative approached, a specialized device in hand. Containment ready. Preparing to remove, a blast of mana sent the operative crashing into the wall. Gwen stood protectively over Feedback as the transformation reverted, leaving Mako dizzy and disoriented on the floor. Kevin, we need to move. Gwen called. Whatever they used is affecting the Omnitrix. Kevin finished subduing the last operative, rushing to Mako's side. Can you walk? Mako nodded weakly, the Omnitrix on their wrist flickering between green and red. Something's wrong with it. They tried to force a disconnect, Gwen explained, helping Mako up. We need to get you somewhere safe while it stabilizes. The rust bucket, Kevin decided. Max has equipment there that might help. They made their way to the emergency exit as the sound of more operatives echoed from the stairwell. They really want this thing, Mako said, cradling their wrist as the Omnitrix continued to fluctuate. They want what it can do, Gwen corrected grimly. And they don't care who they hurt to get it. As they reached Kevin's car, Mako looked back at the apartment building now swarming with Eclipse operatives. In less than 24 hours, their entire life had changed. They were being hunted, wielding powers they barely understood, caught in a conspiracy that somehow connected to Ben Tennyson's death. I never asked for any of this, Mako said quietly as Kevin sped away from the scene. Welcome to the club, Kevin replied, a hint of sympathy in his voice. None of us did. The rust bucket was parked at an old plumber outpost on the outskirts of Bellwood. Despite its unassuming exterior, an aging RV with faded paint, Mako knew from research that it contained some of the most advanced alien tech on Earth. Max Tennyson was waiting for them, his weathered face grave as they explained the situation. His eyes widened at the sight of the Omnitrix on Mako's wrist. I never thought I'd see that again, he said quietly. Can you help? Gwen asked. Eclipse did something to disrupt the bond. Max nodded, leading them inside the rust bucket. The interior was far larger than should have been possible, dimensional engineering, Mako realized. Every surface was covered with equipment, both terrestrial and alien in origin. Sit here, Max instructed Mako, indicating a scanning bed. This might feel strange. As Max worked, connecting sensors to the Omnitrix, Mako studied the legendary plumber. The stories didn't do him justice. There was an air of competence and calm about the man that made Mako instinctively trust him. You're taking this pretty well, Mako observed. Your grandson's watch suddenly showing up on some random kid's wrist. Max's hands paused briefly before continuing their work. I've learned to expect the unexpected in this line of work. He glanced up, meeting Mako's eyes. And you're not random. The Omnitrix doesn't make mistakes. So you believe it chose me? Mako asked. I believe there's a reason it's on your wrist, Max replied carefully. Whether that's fate, programming, or something else entirely remains to be seen. The scanner beeped, displaying results on a nearby screen. Max studied them with a frown. Eclipse used a quantum disruptor, he concluded. Designed to sever the DNA link between user and Omnitrix. Fortunately, they underestimated how strongly it's bonded to you. So I'm okay? Mako asked, looking at the now stable green glow of the watch. The bond is intact, Max confirmed. But this is concerning. This kind of technology is extremely advanced, beyond anything Eclipse should have access to. They've been planning this, Kevin said. Waiting for the Omnitrix to resurface. Which means they might know what really happened to Ben, Gwen added. Max's expression hardened. I think it's time you told us exactly how you found the Omnitrix, Mako. Every detail. Mako recounted the story, the signal on their detection app, finding the hidden plumber outpost, the damaged containment unit, how the Omnitrix repaired itself upon contact. This outpost, Max said when Mako finished. Can you show us where it is? Mako nodded. It's not far from here, actually. About 20 minutes east. That's impossible, Max said, exchanging looks with Gwen. There are no plumber outposts in that sector. Well, there's definitely something there, Mako insisted. I saw plumber tech, emergency protocols, the works. An unauthorized outpost, Kevin mused. Or one so classified even Max doesn't know about it. Neither option is good, Max said grimly. He turned to a communications array, entering a complex code. Rook, this is Magister Tennyson. We have a situation. Meet us at the rust bucket as soon as possible. Rook Blanco? Mako asked excitedly. Ben's partner? Former partner, Max corrected gently. And one of our best agents. If anyone can make sense of this, it's him. Mako nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of the day's events. Exhaustion crept in as the adrenaline faded. The Omnitrix felt heavy on their wrist, a responsibility they never asked for but couldn't escape. What happens now? Mako asked, voicing the question that had been building since the Omnitrix first attached itself. Now, Max said, placing a reassuring hand on Mako's shoulder, you get some rest. Tomorrow, we investigate this outpost, figure out where the Omnitrix has been for the past 6 months, and why it chose you. And after that? Mako pressed. Max's expression was unreadable. One step at a time, kid. One step at a time. As Mako settled into a small sleeping area in the back of the rust bucket, they could hear the others talking in hushed voices. Snippets of conversation drifted through, dimensional anomalies, timeline discrepancies, not a coincidence. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than just the Omnitrix finding a new wielder. Something fundamental had changed in the universe when Ben Tennyson died. And somehow, Mako was now at the center of it all. The Omnitrix pulsed softly on their wrist, almost like a heartbeat. Despite everything, despite the danger and uncertainty, Mako felt a strange sense of rightness. As if after years of studying Ben Tennyson from afar, they were finally part of his story. "I won't let you down," Mako whispered to both the Omnitrix and the memory of its former wielder. "Whatever you chose me for, I'll see it through." With that promise made, Mako finally drifted into an exhausted sleep, dreams filled with alien worlds and a figure in green and black who seemed to be always just out of reach. Morning came too soon. Mako woke to the sound of voices, more than just Gwen, Kevin, and Max pulling on their hoodie. They emerged from the sleeping area to find the rust bucket crowded with familiar faces from research. Rook Blanco stood examining data on a holographic display. Beside him was Cooper Daniels, the technopath, working on some kind of scanner. Even more surprising was the presence of Julie Yamamoto, Ben's ex-girlfriend, deep in conversation with Gwen. All eyes turned to Mako as they entered. "So," Rook said, his cat-like features unreadable, "this is the new Omnitrix wielder." "Mako," they introduced themselves, trying not to feel intimidated by the assembled heroes. "And I'm not really the new wielder. Just borrowing it until we figure this out." "The Omnitrix doesn't work that way," Cooper said, approaching to scan the device on Mako's wrist. "Once it bonds, it's pretty definitive. Unless forcibly removed," Julie added, her expression carefully neutral. "Or its wielder dies." An uncomfortable silence fell over the group at the reminder of Ben. Max broke the tension. "We're heading to investigate this hidden outpost Mako found. Cooper, I want you there to analyze any tech we find. Rook, you take point on security." "What about me?" Julie asked. "You stay here with Gwen," Max decided. "Continue analyzing the Eclipse operative we captured. We need to know who they're working for." Julie nodded, though she didn't look happy about it. "And what about Ship?" She gestured to the galvanic mechamorph symbiote currently disguised as her backpack. "Bring him," Max said. "We might need his abilities if there's damaged tech to interface with." Kevin approached Mako, holding out a plumber badge. "Here. Basic communicator. Don't lose it." Mako took it with reverence. "Seriously? A real plumber badge?" "Temporary clearance only," Kevin clarified. "Don't get excited." But Mako was already excited. Despite the danger, despite being hunted by mysterious operatives, this was like every fan theory come to life. They were working with Ben Tennyson's team, investigating a mystery connected to the Omnitrix. "Are you ready?" Max asked Mako. "This could be dangerous." Mako glanced down at the Omnitrix, then back at the assembled group. Each had lost someone important when Ben died. Each was now counting on Mako to help uncover the truth. "I'm ready," Mako said with more confidence than they felt. "Let's find out what happened to Ben." The abandoned warehouse looked even more decrepit in daylight. The group approached cautiously, sensors scanning for any sign of Eclipse forces. "Clear," Rook announced. "But there are unusual energy readings below ground." "That's where I found the Omnitrix," Mako confirmed, leading them to the hidden entrance. "Down these stairs." The underground facility was just as Mako had described: plumber tech, emergency lighting, signs of a battle. Cooper immediately began scanning everything, his eyes glowing as he interfaced with the technology. "This is definitely plumber tech," he confirmed. "But it's not in any official database. This place doesn't exist on paper." "Black Ops?" Kevin suggested. "Not authorized by me," Max said grimly. "And I oversee all Earth-based operations." Mako led them to the room where they'd found the Omnitrix. The containment unit still lay open, its protective foam molded to the shape of the device that had been stored there. Cooper examined it closely. This was designed specifically for the Omnitrix. "Look at the quantum shielding, the DNA scramblers to prevent activation." "Someone wanted to make sure it stayed dormant," Rook observed. Max's expression darkened. "Someone who knew exactly what they were dealing with." Mako noticed something they'd missed in their initial panicked visit, a small terminal in the corner of the room. Hey, maybe there's information on that computer. Cooper approached, placing his hands on the terminal. His eyes glowed brighter as he interfaced directly with the system. It's heavily encrypted, but I'm getting fragments. This facility was established 6 months ago. Right after Ben's death. By who? Max demanded. Cooper frowned in concentration. That's weird. The authorization codes are yours, Max. All eyes turned to the Magister, who looked genuinely shocked. That's impossible. I never authorized this. Someone with high-level access, then, Rook concluded. Someone who could convincingly forge your credentials. Or someone who had access to your authentication, Kevin added darkly. Max approached the terminal, examining it closely. Cooper, can you access the security footage? I want to see who's been here. Cooper nodded, his connection to the system deepening. Most of it's corrupted, but I'm finding fragments from 6 months ago. A holographic display flickered to life, showing grainy footage. The timestamp confirmed it was from the day after Ben's reported death. The image showed a figure entering the facility, carrying something wrapped in energy-dampening material. Enhance, Max ordered. The image clarified slightly. The figure wore plumber armor, face obscured by a helmet. But something about their build, their movement. That's Ben, Gwen said suddenly from behind them. Everyone turned to see her standing at the entrance to the room, eyes wide. That's Ben's walk. I'd recognize it anywhere. Impossible, Kevin said. We buried him. We all saw the body. What was left of it, Max corrected quietly. After the explosion, there wasn't much to identify. Mako looked from the footage to the empty containment unit. So Ben survived somehow. And he hid the Omnitrix here. Not Ben, Cooper said, accessing more footage. Look. The display showed another clip, the same figure removing their helmet to reveal not Ben Tennyson, but a face none of them recognized. A man with sharp features and cold eyes. Facial recognition identifies him as Dr. Emil Wexler, Cooper reported. Former plumber scientist, specialized in interdimensional physics. Went missing 3 years ago, presumed dead. Clearly not dead, Kevin muttered. But connected to Eclipse somehow, Rook added. The technology they used against us matches his research signature. Max studied the footage intently. Why would Wexler fake Ben's death? What was he after? Maybe not fake, Mako said quietly. Everyone turned to them. What if Ben really is dead, but Wexler recovered the Omnitrix from his body? Kept it hidden until... Until what? Gwen pressed. Mako looked down at the device on their wrist. Until it was ready to choose someone new. The implications hung heavy in the air. If Wexler had the Omnitrix for 6 months, why hide it here? Why not use it himself? And why was Eclipse so desperate to recover it now? Before anyone could theorize further, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights flashed as security doors began to close automatically. Perimeter breach. Rook announced, checking his scanner. Multiple hostiles approaching from all sides. Eclipse found us, Kevin said, absorbing the metal from a nearby panel. They must have been monitoring this place. Everyone out. Max ordered. Cooper, download whatever data you can. We're leaving. Mako felt panic rising. Which way? The stairs will be blocked by now. There has to be another exit, Gwen said, eyes glowing as she scanned the facility with her mana. There. Emergency evacuation tunnel, East Corridor. As they rushed toward the exit, Mako felt the Omnitrix warm against their skin. Its display activated, cycling rapidly through alien forms. Guys? Mako called. Something's happening with the watch. Max glanced back. It's responding to the threat. It's trying to help you. By doing what? Mako asked, watching as the display settled on an unfamiliar alien silhouette. By giving you what you need, Max replied. Trust it, Mako. That's what Ben always did. Explosions rocked the facility as Eclipse forces breached the upper levels. The group reached the evacuation tunnel just as the first operatives appeared at the far end of the corridor. Go! Max shouted, pulling out a blaster. I'll hold them off. Not alone, you won't, Kevin growled, stepping up beside him. Rook joined them, Proto-Tool transforming into battle mode. 3 should be sufficient. Gwen grabbed Mako's arm. Come on. Cooper's already ahead with the data. As they ran, Mako looked back to see Max, Kevin, and Rook engaging the Eclipse forces. They were outnumbered at least 5 to 1. They won't make it, Mako realized, stopping abruptly. They know what they're doing, Gwen insisted, pulling at their arm. Now come on. Mako shook their head, looking down at the Omnitrix. So do I. Before Gwen could stop them, Mako activated the Omnitrix, selecting the alien it had suggested. The transformation was smooth this time, almost natural. When it completed, Mako stood nearly 12 feet tall, body composed of crystalline material that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. Gwen stepped back in shock. Chromastone, she whispered. But with differences. I don't know what this one's called, Mako said, voice resonating with power. But I think I know what it can do. Without waiting for a response, Mako turned and charged back toward the battle. Eclipse operatives were pressing Max, Kevin, and Rook back, using advanced energy weapons that even Kevin's absorbed armor couldn't fully withstand. Get down! Mako shouted to their allies. The 3 veterans of countless alien battles didn't hesitate, dropping to the ground as Mako's crystalline body began to glow with accumulated energy. With a thunderous release, Mako redirected all ambient energy in the facility, lights, equipment, even the Eclipse weapon's power, into a massive concussive blast. The wave of energy swept down the corridor, incapacitating the Eclipse forces without killing them. When it subsided, Max, Kevin, and Rook looked up in astonishment. What was that? Kevin demanded. I don't know, Mako admitted, examining their crystalline hands. It just felt right. That's not any Petrosapian or Crystalsapian form I've seen, Max said, studying Mako's transformed state. The Omnitrix must be evolving. Questions later, Rook interrupted, checking his scanner. More hostiles inbound. Together, the group retreated through the evacuation tunnel, emerging in an abandoned subway station half a mile away. Cooper was waiting with a plumber transport vehicle. Did you get the data? Max asked as they piled in. Cooper nodded. Everything that wasn't corrupted. It's not much, but it might give us some answers. As the transport pulled away, Mako reverted to human form, exhausted but exhilarated. That was intense. That was reckless, Gwen corrected, though there was a hint of approval in her voice. But effective. That form, Max said, studying the now dormant Omnitrix. I've never seen anything like it. Me neither, Mako admitted. It wasn't on any of the alien databases I've studied. The Omnitrix contains DNA from over 1 million species, Rook explained. Many of which have never been documented. It appears to be selecting forms specifically suited to your needs. Or creating new ones, Cooper suggested. The Omnitrix has fusion capabilities. Maybe it's combining DNA samples to create optimal forms. Mako looked down at the device with new respect. So it's not just choosing me. It's adapting to me. Which makes you even more valuable to Eclipse, Max said gravely. And potentially more dangerous. The unspoken question hung in the air, was Mako ready for that responsibility? Could anyone be? As the transport headed back to Plumber HQ, Mako gazed out the window at Bellwood passing by. Somewhere out there, Eclipse was planning their next move. Somewhere out there were answers about Ben's fate and why the Omnitrix had chosen Mako as its new wielder. One thing was becoming increasingly clear: this wasn't just about inheriting a powerful device. This was about inheriting a legacy. Ben Tennyson's legacy. And Mako was just beginning to understand what that truly meant. Chapter 2, Trial by Fire. Plumber headquarters hummed with activity as Mako stood in the middle of it all, trying not to look like a total fanboy. The massive underground complex beneath Bellwood was everything their research had suggested and more: alien tech everywhere, species from across the galaxy working side by side, and at the center of it all, a memorial hologram of Ben Tennyson that rotated slowly, green jacket and confident smile forever preserved. "Stop staring," Kevin muttered, nudging Mako forward. "You look like a tourist." "Cut me some slack," Mako whispered back. 24 hours ago I was just a conspiracy theorist with a blog. Now I'm standing in actual Plumber HQ with the actual Omnitrix on my wrist." Gwen shot them a sympathetic look. "It's overwhelming at first. Even Ben needed time to adjust." The mention of Ben sent a ripple of discomfort through their small group. The data Cooper had recovered from the hidden outpost was being analyzed, but preliminary findings confirmed their suspicions: someone had deliberately hidden the Omnitrix after Ben's death, keeping it dormant until Mako found it. "Magister Tennyson is waiting," Rook said, leading them toward a secure conference room. "He has assembled the response team." Mako swallowed hard. "Response team? That sounds official." "It is," Gwen confirmed. "After what happened at the outpost, Grandpa's taking this seriously. Eclipse isn't just after the Omnitrix, they're after you." "No pressure or anything," Mako muttered, unconsciously rubbing the device on their wrist. The conference room doors slid open to reveal Max Tennyson standing before a holographic display showing footage from the warehouse battle. Around the table sat familiar faces: Julie with Ship perched on her shoulder, Cooper typing rapidly at a terminal, and a few others Mako recognized from their research. Blukik and Dryba, the Galvan technicians. Magister Patelladay, the Pisxis Valen officer. And most surprisingly, Professor Paradox, the time traveler, standing in a corner observing with detached interest. All eyes turned to Mako as they entered, conversations falling silent. "So this is our new Omnitrix wielder," Patelladay said, adjusting his glasses. "Bit scrawny, ain't ya?" "That's what I said," Kevin smirked. "Appearances can be deceiving," Paradox commented, checking his pocket watch. "Particularly when destiny takes unexpected turns." Max gestured for everyone to sit. "Let's focus. Cooper, what do we know?" Cooper's fingers flew across his keyboard. "The data recovered from the outpost confirms it was established 6 months ago, immediately following Ben's." He hesitated. "Incident. Dr. Emil Wexler used high-level clearance codes to create the facility off-books. According to logs, the Omnitrix was recovered from the explosion site and placed in stasis." "Why not destroy it?" Julie asked. "If Eclipse wanted it gone, the Omnitrix cannot be conventionally destroyed," Rook interjected. "Its fail-safes prevent such an outcome." "And Wexler didn't want it destroyed," Cooper continued. "According to his notes, he was waiting for something. Some kind of recalibration to complete." All eyes turned to the device on Mako's wrist. After Ben's DNA signature was terminated, Cooper explained, the Omnitrix entered a hibernation state. It was remaking itself. "For me?" Mako asked incredulously. "Not specifically," Cooper clarified. "But for a new user. The Omnitrix is programmed to seek out a worthy wielder if its primary user is lost." The implication hung heavy in the air. Ben was truly gone, and the Omnitrix had moved on. "What about Eclipse?" Max asked. "Any connection to Wexler in the data?" Cooper nodded grimly. "Wexler founded Eclipse. It's a research group gone rogue, scientists and soldiers who believe alien tech should be weaponized for Earth's protection. They were kicked out of the plumbers 3 years ago when their methods crossed ethical lines. And now they want the Omnitrix, Gwen concluded. Not just want, Cooper corrected. According to Wexler's notes, they need it. For something called Project Daybreak. That sounds ominous, Mako muttered. It gets worse, Cooper continued. The project involves interdimensional technology. They're trying to create stable breaches between realities. To what end? Rook asked. Cooper shook his head. The specifics were corrupted. But whatever they're planning, the Omnitrix is key. Or more specifically, Paradox spoke up, drawing everyone's attention, its wielder is key. Mako felt their stomach drop. Me? What could they possibly want with me? A valid question, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a small, gray alien with bulbous eyes and a stern expression. Despite his diminutive size, his presence commanded immediate respect, even Max straightened slightly. Azimuth, Mako breathed, recognizing the first thinker, creator of the Omnitrix. The Galvan's sharp eyes fixed on Mako. So you're the one my creation has chosen. Hardly what I expected. No one's more surprised than me, Mako replied, trying not to sound defensive. Azimuth approached, hovering on a small anti-gravity platform until he was eye level with Mako. Show me. Hesitantly, Mako extended their arm. Azimuth examined the Omnitrix with critical scrutiny, occasionally muttering under his breath. Interesting, he finally said. The recalibration is complete, but the configuration is unlike anything I programmed. It's adapted beyond its original parameters. Is that bad? Mako asked. It's unprecedented, Azimuth replied. The Omnitrix was designed to bond with Ben Tennyson. His DNA was the template, his brainwave patterns the calibration standard. For it to select a new wielder independently. He trailed off, lost in thought. Can you remove it? Mako asked. Several people around the table looked surprised at the question. Not that I'm trying to bail or anything, but if Eclipse is after me because of this thing, maybe it should go to someone more qualified. Azimuth studied Mako with new interest. A surprising display of humility. Perhaps my creation's choice wasn't entirely misguided. He turned to Max. I'll need a lab to examine the bond more thoroughly. Of course, Max nodded. Cooper, assist Azimuth with whatever he needs. As the meeting adjourned, Mako found themselves following Azimuth and Cooper to a high-tech laboratory deeper in the plumber base. The room was filled with equipment Mako couldn't begin to identify, much of it Galvan in design. Sit, Azimuth instructed, pointing to an examination chair. As Mako complied, they couldn't help asking, why did you disappear after Ben died? Everyone said you vanished. Azimuth's expression darkened. I was processing. Ben Tennyson wasn't merely the wielder of my creation. He had become its ideal user. His loss was significant. You cared about him, Mako realized. I respected his growth, Azimuth corrected, though his tone lacked conviction. Now, silence. This requires concentration. For the next hour, Azimuth conducted various tests on the Omnitrix, occasionally asking Mako to transform into different aliens. Each transformation felt less painful than the last, as if Mako's body was adapting to the process. Fascinating, Azimuth muttered as Mako reverted from a methanosian form back to human. The neural interface has fully integrated with your nervous system. The bond is even more complete than Ben's was at this stage. What does that mean? Mako asked, flexing their fingers as the lingering sensation of plant matter faded. It means, Azimuth said with a hint of frustration, that removing the Omnitrix without causing you significant harm would be challenging. So I'm stuck with it. For now, Azimuth confirmed. But more concerning is why it's bonded so thoroughly so quickly. It's almost as if. He trailed off, eyes narrowing. As if what? Mako pressed. As if it was programmed to find you specifically, Azimuth finished. But that's impossible. The selection protocols are randomized within parameters of compatibility. Cooper looked up from his terminal. Unless someone altered those protocols. No one could override my security, Azimuth snapped. Vexler had the Omnitrix for 6 months, Cooper pointed out. And he was specifically waiting for it to recalibrate. What if he influenced who it would choose? The implications hung in the air. Had Mako been manipulated into finding the Omnitrix? Was their selection as its new wielder part of Eclipse's plan all along? Before they could discuss it further, an alarm blared throughout the base. Red emergency lights flashed as a computerized voice announced, "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel on alert." "That's near the containment cells," Cooper said, already moving toward the door. "Where they're holding the Eclipse operative we captured." Mako followed instinctively, the Omnitrix glowing in response to the threat. In the corridor outside, plumbers were rushing toward the disturbance. Mako caught sight of Gwen and Kevin ahead, already running toward Sector 7. They arrived to find chaos, smoke filled the corridor, and several plumbers lay unconscious. The containment cell that had held the Eclipse operative stood open, empty. "What happened?" Max demanded, arriving seconds later. "Teleportation breach," a plumber officer reported. "Something overrode our dampening field. They came in, took their guy, and vanished." "That's impossible," Rook said. "Our systems are designed to prevent unauthorized teleportation." "Apparently someone didn't get that memo," Kevin remarked, examining the damaged control panel. Mako approached the empty cell, noticing something scratched into the wall, a symbol. The same Eclipse insignia the operatives wore, but with a message beneath it: "The sun rises at dawn." "Guys," Mako called, pointing to the message. "I think they left this on purpose." Gwen examined the marking. "It's a warning. Or a threat. Or a clue," Mako suggested. "If daybreak is their project, and an eclipse is the sun being covered." They trailed off, brain making connections. What if they're planning to activate their interdimensional tech at dawn? That's less than 12 hours from now, Max calculated. "Cooper, can you track any unusual energy readings? Anything that might indicate preparation for a dimensional breach?" Cooper was already working on his tablet. "I'm scanning, but without knowing exactly what technology they're using, I might be able to help with that," Azimuth interrupted, approaching the cell. He studied the symbol with narrowed eyes. The interdimensional physics Vexler was researching. "I'm familiar with his work. He was attempting to adapt Quantumelia technology." "The Quantumelia?" Rook looked alarmed. "The beings who created the Annihilarch?" "The same," Azimuth confirmed. Vexler believed their technology could be used to access parallel dimensions without destroying them. "And he needs the Omnitrix for that?" Mako asked. "Not the Omnitrix itself," Azimuth said, giving Mako a significant look. "It's Wielder." "Me? Why me?" "The Omnitrix contains the DNA of over 1,000,000 species," Azimuth explained. "Including several with natural interdimensional abilities. Combined with Vexler's technology, a skilled wielder could theoretically stabilize a breach between dimensions. So they need me to open a door to another dimension," Mako concluded. "But why? What's on the other side that they want so badly?" "That," Max said grimly, "is what we need to find out. And fast." Back in the conference room, the team gathered to formulate a plan. Cooper's scans had detected unusual energy fluctuations at 5 locations around Bellwood. "They're prepping multiple sites," he explained, highlighting them on a map. "Probably to make it harder for us to know which one they'll use." "Or they'll use all of them," Gwen suggested. "Create multiple breaches simultaneously. That would be catastrophic," Azimuth warned. "The fabric of reality in this area would become dangerously unstable." "So we hit all 5 locations," Kevin said. "Split up, shut them down." "Too risky," Max countered. If these are Eclipse's primary facilities, they'll be heavily guarded. We need to identify which one Vexler will be at. The dam, Mako said suddenly, studying the map. Everyone turned to them. Look at the pattern. 4 of the locations form corners of a square, with the dam at the center. If they're creating some kind of dimensional field, the dam would be the focal point. Rook analyzed the pattern. The energy distribution does support that theory. The dam also provides significant power generation capabilities. Then that's where we focus, Max decided. But we'll still need teams at the other locations to disable the supporting technology. As the others discussed tactical approaches, Mako felt a strange sensation from the Omnitrix, almost like it was trying to communicate. The display activated on its own, cycling through aliens before settling on one Mako didn't recognize. Azimuth, Mako called, interrupting the planning session. What's this one? The Galvan approached, studying the holographic display. Interesting. That's a Chronosapian form. Time manipulation abilities. Why would the Omnitrix select that now? I don't know, Mako admitted. It just activated on its own. It's been doing that, showing me aliens I don't select, almost like it's suggesting them. The AI interface becoming proactive, Azimuth mused. Another deviation from its programming. Or it knows something we don't, Paradox suggested, appearing suddenly beside them. Time is of the essence, after all. Mako looked from Azimuth to Paradox. You think it's trying to tell us something about timing? About dawn? Perhaps, Paradox said cryptically. Or perhaps about the nature of what Eclipse is attempting. Cross-dimensional breaches and time manipulation, Azimuth muttered. A dangerous combination. Max brought the discussion back on track. Whatever they're planning, we need to be ready. Mako, you'll come with me, Gwen, and Kevin to the dam. Rook will lead teams to the other locations. What about me? Mako asked. You, Max said firmly, are our primary asset and their primary target. You'll stay close to me. But I can help. The Omnitrix is powerful but unpredictable in your hands, Max cut them off. No offense, but you've had the thing for barely a day. This isn't the time for experimentation. Mako wanted to argue but knew Max was right. They had barely scratched the surface of what the Omnitrix could do. In a high-stakes situation, inexperience could be deadly. I'll help Mako prepare. Azimuth offered unexpectedly. A crash course in Omnitrix operation may prove useful. Max nodded. Good. Everyone gear up. We move in 3 hours. As the room cleared, Azimuth gestured for Mako to follow him back to the lab. Once there, the Galvan turned to face them with a serious expression. You understand the gravity of the situation, yes? He asked. Mako nodded. Eclipse wants to use me to open doorways to other dimensions. Probably not for a friendly cultural exchange program. Indeed. Which means you need to understand exactly what you're capable of. Azimuth activated a holographic training simulator. We have limited time, so pay attention. I will not repeat myself. What followed was the most intense 3 hours of Mako's life. Azimuth proved to be a demanding but effective teacher, pushing Mako through transformation after transformation, explaining the abilities and limitations of key alien forms. Each time Mako faltered, Azimuth pushed harder, showing none of the patience Ben had described in his interviews. Again, Azimuth commanded after Mako fumbled a transition between forms. Your enemy will not wait while you figure out how to use Pyronite abilities. Sweating and exhausted, Mako glared at the diminutive alien. I'm doing my best here. I didn't exactly get an instruction manual with this thing. Neither did Ben, Azimuth retorted. Yet he managed to master it under far more stressful circumstances. Yeah, well, I'm not Ben. Mako snapped, frustration boiling over. Everyone keeps comparing me to him, but I'm never going to be him. I'm just, me. Asmatha's expression softened slightly. That, he said quietly, is precisely the point. What? The Omnitrix did not choose you to be Ben Tennyson, Asmath explained. It chose you to be yourself, with your own strengths and weaknesses. Understanding that is the first step to truly wielding it effectively. Mako blinked, caught off guard by the shift in tone. So all this pushing was to see how you respond under pressure, Asmath confirmed. And I must say, your adaptability is adequate. From Asmath, Mako suspected that was high praise. So what now? Now, Asmath said, shutting down the simulator, we try something different. The Omnitrix's AI has been unusually responsive to you. Let's see if we can use that connection. How? Close your eyes, Asmath instructed. Focus on the Omnitrix. Not as a device on your wrist, but as an extension of yourself. Feeling slightly foolish, Mako complied. At first, there was nothing, just the cool metal against their skin. But gradually, a sensation built, like a humming vibration passing through their nervous system. I feel something, Mako murmured. Like it's alive. In a sense, it is, Asmath said. The Omnitrix contains complex AI algorithms that adapt to its user. Try to communicate with it, not with words, but with intent. Mako focused harder, imagining reaching out to the presence they felt. Show me what you want, they thought. What are you trying to tell me? The response was immediate and startling. Images flooded Mako's mind, alien worlds, dimensional barriers, a figure in shadow wielding technology beyond human understanding. And at the center of it all, a familiar silhouette, Ben Tennyson, reaching out across a void. Mako's eyes snapped open with a gasp. I don't even know how to describe it. Try, Asmath urged. Ben, Mako said, struggling to process the vision. I saw Ben, but not here. Somewhere else, like, another reality. An eclipse is trying to reach it. They're not just opening random dimensional doors, they're targeting specific realities. Asmatha's eyes widened. The multiverse theory. Infinite dimensions with infinite variations. He turned to a console, typing rapidly. Vexler wasn't just researching interdimensional travel. He was searching for something specific. Or someone, Mako added, the implications becoming clear. What if Ben isn't dead in every reality? What if somewhere out there, in another dimension? He still lives, Asmath finished. And Vexler wants to find him. But why? And what does that have to do with me? Asmath fixed Mako with a grave stare. The Omnitrix contains Ben's DNA, his memories, aspects of his consciousness. In a sense, it's a key to finding him across dimensional barriers. And I'm what, the lockpick? Mako asked. More like the hand that turns the key, Asmath corrected. Your compatibility with the Omnitrix creates a unique energy signature, one Vexler can use to track dimensional variants of Ben Tennyson. Mako suddenly felt the weight of the situation crushing down. So if Eclipse gets control of me and the Omnitrix, they could potentially access any reality where a version of Ben exists, Asmath confirmed. Including those where he possesses even more powerful versions of the Omnitrix. We have to warn Max, Mako said, already moving toward the door. Asmath hopped onto Mako's shoulder. Indeed. This changes everything about Eclipse's motivation, and the danger they pose. The dam loomed ahead, silhouetted against the pre-dawn sky as Max's team approached in stealth mode. Plumber Tech kept their vehicle cloaked from conventional detection methods, but Mako couldn't shake the feeling they were expected. Energy readings are off the charts, Cooper reported from HQ, his voice coming through their comms. They've definitely got something big powering up in there. Any sign of Vexler? Max asked. Negative, but thermal scans show at least 30 Eclipse operatives inside. They've taken control of the entire facility. Mako sat in the back, trying to calm their racing thoughts. After sharing their discovery with the team, the stakes had become even clearer. Eclipse wasn't just attempting dimensional travel, they were hunting for alternate versions of Ben Tennyson. Whether to recruit him, capture him, or steal more advanced Omnitrix technology remained unclear. "You okay back there?" Gwen asked, noticing Mako's tension. "Just peachy," Mako replied. "About to face off against a bunch of highly trained operatives who want to use me as a human dimensional can opener. What could go wrong?" Kevin snorted. "At least you've got a sense of humor about it. That'll come in handy when they're shooting at us." "Not helping, Kevin," Gwen chided. "Remember the plan," Max said as they neared the drop point. "We infiltrate quietly, locate the dimensional technology, and disable it. No unnecessary confrontation." "And if we run into Vexler?" Kevin asked. "Capture if possible," Max answered. "But the technology is the priority. Without it, he can't proceed with Project Daybreak." The vehicle settled silently behind an outcropping of rocks several hundred yards from the dam's maintenance entrance. As they prepared to disembark, Max turned to Mako. "Stay close. Follow my lead. And only use the Omnitrix if absolutely necessary." Mako nodded, though the device seemed to pulse against their wrist, almost eager for action. The connection they'd established during Asmitha's training felt stronger now, more intuitive. The group moved silently toward the entrance, Gwen's mana abilities allowing them to detect patrolling guards before they became visible. Kevin absorbed the material of the dam itself, his body taking on its concrete properties for protection. "Two guards at the entrance," Gwen whispered, her eyes glowing faintly. "And some kind of energy barrier. Can you disable it?" Max asked. Gwen studied the energy pattern. "It's technology, not magic. I can create a temporary gap, but they'll know something's wrong immediately." "Then we make it quick," Kevin said, forming his hand into a hammer. "I'll take the guards," Gwen creates the gap, and we're in before alarms sound. Max nodded. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, go." The plan worked flawlessly. Kevin incapacitated the guards with swift precision while Gwen's mana disrupted the energy barrier just long enough for them to slip through. Inside, emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow. "They've rerouted all power to the main turbine room," Max observed, checking a facility map. "That's where they'll have their equipment set up." As they navigated through maintenance corridors, Mako felt the Omnitrix growing warmer against their skin. It had been doing this more frequently, responding to dangers before they became apparent. "Something's wrong," Mako whispered. "The Omnitrix is reacting to something." No sooner had the words left their mouth than a section of wall beside them slid open, revealing a hidden passage. Standing there was an Eclipse operative, as surprised to see them as they were to see him. Before anyone could react, the Omnitrix flashed, its display activating to show a necrophrygian form, Big Chill. Without conscious decision, Mako slammed the dial down. The transformation was almost instantaneous now, their body shifting to the moth-like alien form with practiced ease. "Intruders," the operative shouted, reaching for his weapon. Big Chill exhaled, a freezing mist enveloping the operative before he could fire. Within seconds, he was encased in ice, expression frozen in shock. "Sorry about that," Mako said, their voice now the raspy whisper of Big Chill. "Looks like your warning got the cold shoulder." Kevin rolled his eyes. "Great, the watch comes with bad puns included." "The passage he came from," Gwen said, pointing to the hidden door. "It must be a shortcut to the main facility." Max nodded. "Good work, Mako. But from here on, we stick to stealth. Return to human form." Mako complied, tapping the Omnitrix symbol to revert. The transformation back felt almost natural now, like stepping through a doorway rather than the painful molecular restructuring of their first attempts. The hidden passage led them deeper into the dam's infrastructure, eventually emerging onto a catwalk overlooking the massive turbine room. What they saw below made them all freeze in shock. The entire chamber had been converted into a massive laboratory. In the center, where turbines had once stood, now rose a circular platform surrounded by specialized equipment. Energy conduits ran from the dam's power systems into a ring of pylons, between which arcs of electricity danced. And standing on the platform, directing the operation, was Dr. Emil Wechsler himself. "Looks like we found our mad scientist," Kevin muttered. "And his doomsday device," Gwen added. Those pylons matched the technology from Ben's final mission. Mako studied the setup, their mind connecting dots. "They're creating a dimensional lens. Those pylons will focus energy to punch through the barriers between realities." Max looked at Mako in surprise. "How do you know that?" "I don't know," Mako admitted. "It's like, the Omnitrix is feeding me information somehow." "The collective knowledge of over 1 million species," Gwen mused. "Maybe some of that is transferring to you." "Whatever it is, it's useful," Max said. "Can you tell what stage they're at in the process?" Mako focused on the technology below, the Omnitrix warming against their skin. "They're almost ready." "Those energy readings at the other sites?" "They're creating a dimensional perimeter. When all 5 points activate simultaneously, this focal point will create a stable breach. Then we need to disable those pylons," Max decided. "Gwen, can you create a diversion on the far side of the room? Kevin and I will target the power conduits. Mako, stay hidden unless things go sideways." Before they could implement the plan, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Wechsler looked up sharply, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Perimeter breach at sites 2 and 4. Plumber interference confirmed." He turned to his operatives. "Accelerate the timeline. We initiate now." The pylons surged with power, the arcs of energy between them intensifying. "So much for stealth," Kevin said, already moving toward the nearest ladder. "We need to shut this down now." Eclipse operatives spotted them on the catwalk, weapons firing. Gwen threw up a mana shield, deflecting the blasts as Max returned fire with his own blaster. "Mako, get to cover," Max ordered. But Mako was frozen, staring at the technology below. The Omnitrix was pulsing rapidly now, almost painfully hot against their skin. As they watched, the air within the pylon ring began to shimmer and distort. "They're opening the breach," Mako called. "If it stabilizes, we won't be able to close it." Decision made, Mako activated the Omnitrix, cycling quickly through alien forms before selecting one they recognized from Asmitha's training, Feedback, the conductoid. The transformation was smooth and fast, and suddenly Mako stood taller, body crackling with electrical energy. "What are you doing?" Gwen shouted as Mako vaulted over the catwalk railing. "Stopping this before it starts." Mako called back, Feedback's body easily absorbing the impact of the 30-foot drop. Eclipse operatives turned their weapons on the new threat, but Feedback was already moving, plugs extending from their fingers to connect with the nearest pylon. Energy surged through Feedback's body as they began absorbing the massive power flow. "Stop him," Wechsler commanded, grabbing a specialized weapon from a nearby table. "Don't let him disrupt the field." Feedback grinned, body now glowing with absorbed energy. "Too late, Doc. This light show's getting unplugged." With a gesture, Feedback redirected the absorbed energy back into the pylon system, not to power it, but to overload it. The carefully calibrated equipment sparked and smoked as circuits fried. Wechsler's face contorted with rage. Years of preparation, ruined by a child. He aimed his weapon at Feedback. "Let's see how well you absorb quantum disruption energy." The blast caught Feedback off guard, striking not their body but the Omnitrix symbol on their chest. Pain lanced through Mako as the transformation destabilized, their form flickering between Feedback and human. What did you do?" Mako gasped, dropping to one knee as the Omnitrix sparked and flashed. Wechsler approached, a cold smile on his face. "Quantum disruption. temporarily scrambles the Omnitrix's transformation matrix. You're stuck between forms, and vulnerable. Around them, the battle raged. Gwen and Kevin had descended to the main floor, engaging Eclipse operatives while Max worked his way toward the main control terminal. "It doesn't matter," Mako said through gritted teeth, fighting to maintain the feedback form. "Your equipment is fried. You can't open the breach." Vexler's smile widened. "This equipment? Perhaps. But Project Daybreak doesn't rely on just one facility." He tapped his earpiece. "Initiate emergency protocols at all sites. Divert all power to the primary breach." The remaining pylons suddenly surged with renewed energy. The shimmering in the air intensified, a small tear becoming visible in the center of the ring. "You see?" Vexler said, standing over Mako. "You've merely delayed the inevitable. The breach will open, and we will find him." "Find who?" Mako demanded, though they already suspected the answer. "Ben Tennyson," Vexler confirmed. "The real Ben Tennyson. Not the pale imitation our reality produced." "Ben is dead," Mako said. "Whatever version of him you're looking for won't be the same." "Oh, I'm counting on that," Vexler replied. "You see, our Ben was a disappointment. All that power, and what did he do with it? Played hero, followed rules, wasted potential. He gestured to the growing breach. But somewhere out there exists a Ben who understands power. Who isn't afraid to use it. That's who we're going to find." The implications hit Mako like a physical blow. "You want an evil Ben. One you can control." "Not control," Vexler corrected. "Partner with. Guide. With his power and our technology, we could reshape reality itself." As they spoke, the breach continued to grow, now large enough to see through to somewhere else. A landscape similar to Earth, but with subtle differences. A Bellwood that wasn't quite right. "You're insane," Mako said, feeling the Omnitrix starting to stabilize on their wrist. "You have no idea what might come through that breach." "I've calculated every variable," Vexler insisted. "I've spent years studying the multiverse, identifying the exact reality we need to access." "Then you should have calculated this," a voice said from behind him. Vexler turned just in time to receive a mana blast from Gwen that sent him flying across the platform. She stood with Kevin at her side, both battle-worn but determined. "It's over, Vexler," Kevin said, hands formed into concrete hammers. "Your little science project is getting shut down." Vexler laughed, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "You're too late. The breach is stable. Within moments, our scouts will cross over and make contact with the alternate Ben." As if on cue, a group of Eclipse operatives in specialized suits approached the breach, equipment in hand. "We need to close that breach," Gwen said, eyes scanning for a solution. "Mako, can you transform again?" Mako checked the Omnitrix, now glowing green once more. "I think so. But into what? We need something that can affect dimensional energy." "Alien X," Vexler suggested with a mocking smile. "Oh wait, you can't access that form, can you? The Celestialsapian DNA is locked to prevent exactly this kind of interference." Mako ignored him, cycling through available aliens. The Omnitrix seemed to be guiding them, stopping on the Chronosapian form it had highlighted earlier. "Clockwork," Mako murmured. "Time manipulation." "That won't help," Vexler scoffed. "This is a spatial breach, not temporal." But Mako remembered what Azimuth had said about trusting the Omnitrix's instincts. With determination, they activated the transformation. The change was unlike any previous form. Mako's body became mechanical, bronze gears and clockwork replacing flesh and blood. A key-like protrusion emerged from their head, and a transparent chest cavity revealed intricate gears turning within. "Time and space are interconnected," Clockwork said, their voice now mechanical and accented. "One cannot exist without the other." Understanding dawned on Mako as knowledge flowed from the transformation. Clockwork couldn't directly close the breach, but they could rewind its creation, reverse the very process that opened it. "Everyone get back!" Mako shouted, the key on their head beginning to spin. Green temporal energy emanated from Clockwork's body, encompassing the breach. With precise control, Mako focused on the dimensional tear, rewinding its formation second by second. "No!" Vexler screamed, lunging toward Clockwork. "You'll destroy everything." Kevin intercepted him, slamming him back to the ground. "Let the kid work." The breach began to shrink, the edges of reality knitting back together as Clockwork's power reversed the damage. The Eclipse operatives who had been approaching the portal scrambled back as unstable energy lashed out around them. "It's working," Gwen said in awe. "The breach is closing." Maintaining the temporal field was draining Mako rapidly. Clockwork wasn't designed for sustained power use, and they could feel the transformation beginning to falter. "Just a little more," Clockwork grunted, pushing their power to its limits. With a final surge of effort, Mako closed the breach completely, the dimensional tier sealing with a thunderclap of energy that knocked everyone off their feet. The backlash sent feedback through the Omnitrix, forcing Mako back to human form as they collapsed to the platform. Silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the sound of failing equipment and the distant wail of alarms. Eclipse operatives, seeing their leader captured and their project failed, were already retreating. "We did it," Mako gasped, exhaustion making even those simple words an effort. Max appeared, having secured the control room. "Plumber reinforcements are incoming. The other sites have been neutralized." Vexler, still pinned beneath Kevin's weight, laughed bitterly. "You think this is over? This was one attempt of many. The breach can be reopened. The barriers between realities grow thinner every day. Then we'll be waiting," Max said firmly. "The plumbers exist to stop threats like you, Vexler. That hasn't changed." As plumber agents swarmed the facility, securing equipment and detaining Eclipse personnel, Mako sat quietly, processing everything that had happened. The Omnitrix felt warm against their skin, almost comforting. Gwen approached, sitting beside them. "You did good out there." That was quick thinking with Clockwork. "It wasn't me," Mako admitted. "It was the Omnitrix. It knew what we needed before I did." "That's how it was with Ben sometimes," Gwen said with a sad smile. "Like they were partners, not just user and tool." Mako looked down at the device. "I think I'm starting to understand that relationship. It's not just lending me power, it's guiding me, teaching me." "Maybe that's why it chose you," Gwen suggested. "Not because you're like Ben, but because you can listen in ways even he couldn't." Before Mako could respond, a commotion drew their attention. Plumber agents were calling for Max, urgency in their voices. Something had been found in Vexler's personal quarters within the facility. Curiosity piqued, Mako followed Gwen to investigate. They found Max standing before an elaborate wall of information, photos, notes, dimensional coordinates, all connected by strings in a complex web. "What is all this?" Kevin asked, joining them. "Vexler's research," Max said grimly. "His map of the multiverse." Mako approached the wall, studying the information. Most of it was incomprehensible: quantum equations, interdimensional coordinates, reality classification systems. But at the center of it all was a single photo that made their blood run cold. It showed Ben Tennyson, but not as they knew him. This Ben wore a darker version of the Omnitrix, his expression cold and calculating. Scrawled across the image in Vexler's handwriting were the words, "Primary target, Reality 7723, Omnitrix Prime." "Is that?" Mako began. "An alternate Ben," Gwen confirmed, her voice tight. "One who made very different choices." "Omnitrix Prime," Kevin read. "What does that mean?" "It means," came Asmatha's voice as the Galvan entered the room on his hovering platform, "that Vexler found a reality where the Omnitrix reached its full potential, where all failsafes and limiters were removed. A version with no restrictions, Max translated. No safeguards against its most dangerous functions. And apparently wielded by a Ben who doesn't share our Ben's moral compass, Azimuth added, examining the wall with growing concern. Mako felt a chill run down their spine. So Vexler wasn't just looking for any alternate Ben. He wanted this specific one, a Ben with an unrestricted Omnitrix and questionable ethics. With that power, Gwen said. Quietly, he could conquer not just one reality, but all of them. And Eclipse was going to help him do it, Kevin concluded. In exchange for what? A piece of the multiverse? It doesn't matter now, Max said firmly. The breach is closed. Vexler is in custody. This threat is contained. But Mako wasn't so sure. Looking at the elaborate research wall, the years of planning evident in every note and calculation, they doubted this was over. Vexler had contingencies, the accelerated timeline today proved that. What other plans might he have set in motion? We should take all of this, Mako suggested. Study it. Understand exactly what he was trying to do and how close he came to succeeding. Max nodded. Good thinking. Cooper will want to analyze every detail. As plumbers began carefully documenting and removing the research materials, Mako felt the Omnitrix pulse against their wrist. Looking down, they saw the display activate briefly, showing the silhouette of that darker Ben from the photograph. A warning? A premonition? Mako wasn't sure. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear, the Omnitrix had chosen them for a reason, and that reason went beyond simply finding a new wielder after Ben's death. There was a larger game being played, with realities themselves as the board. And somehow, Mako had become a key piece in that game. Back at Plumber HQ, the debriefing was intense. Every detail of the dam operation was analyzed, every piece of recovered Eclipse technology catalogued. Vexler himself remained uncooperative, refusing to provide information beyond cryptic warnings about inevitable convergence. Mako sat through it all, fatigue wearing at their edges but mind racing with implications. When they were finally dismissed, they found themselves wandering to the memorial hologram of Ben in the main atrium. Quite a day you've had, Paradox said, appearing beside them without warning. Mako had grown somewhat used to the time traveler's sudden appearances. That's putting it mildly. We stopped Eclipse from opening a door to an evil Ben's universe. I'd call that a win. For now, Paradox agreed, studying the hologram thoughtfully. But time, like dimensional barriers, is fluid. What seems solid today may shift tomorrow. Is that supposed to be comforting? Mako asked dryly. Paradox smiled enigmatically. Comfort is rarely found in truth. But perhaps you can find it in purpose. And what's my purpose supposed to be? Filling Ben's shoes? Keeping evil versions of him from invading our reality? Perhaps, Paradox mused, it's to forge your own path while honoring his legacy. The Omnitrix chose you, Mako-chin. Not as a replacement for Ben Tennyson, but as the right wielder for this moment in time. The time traveler checked his pocket watch. Ah, speaking of time, I'm needed elsewhere. Or elsewhen, to be precise. He turned to leave, then paused. One last thing. The Omnitrix contains many secrets, some even Azimuth doesn't fully understand. Trust its guidance, even when it seems counterintuitive. With that cryptic advice, Paradox vanished, leaving Mako alone with the hologram and their thoughts. Mysterious time travelers and their vague warnings, Mako muttered to Ben's image. Was this part of your daily routine too? Pretty much, a voice responded. Mako turned to find Gwen approaching, a tired smile on her face. The mysterious advice, the world-ending threats, the narrow escapes, that was Ben's life. Now it's yours. Lucky me, Mako said, but without real bitterness. Despite the danger and uncertainty, there had been moments today, transforming into clockwork, reversing the dimensional breach, working alongside legends like Gwen and Kevin, that had felt right in a way nothing in their life ever had before. "How are you holding up?" Gwen asked, genuine concern in her voice. Mako considered the question. "Processing. 24 hours ago I was just a kid obsessed with aliens and conspiracy theories. Now I've got the most powerful device in the universe stuck to my wrist and apparently a multiversal threat to deal with." "Sounds about right," Gwen said with a small laugh. Ben's first day with the Omnitrix involved fighting an alien warlord and accidentally setting the forest on fire. "At least I haven't burned anything down yet," Mako replied, then grew serious. "Gwen, can I ask you something? About Ben?" She nodded. "Do you think, would he be okay with this? With me having the Omnitrix?" Gwen's expression softened. Ben understood the responsibility of the Omnitrix better than anyone. He knew it wasn't just a weapon or a tool, it was a legacy. A way to protect people across the universe. She placed a hand on Mako's shoulder. "From what I've seen today, I think he'd be proud to have you carrying that legacy forward." The words hit Mako harder than expected, a lump forming in their throat. "Thanks. That means a lot." "Don't get sappy on me now," Kevin said, joining them. "We've got work to do." Cooper's found something in Vexler's files. Back in the conference room, Cooper was projecting data onto the main display. "I've been analyzing the quantum coordinates from Vexler's research. They don't just point to alternate realities, they're specifically targeting dimensional weak points." "Weak points?" Mako asked. "Places where the barriers between realities are naturally thinner," Cooper explained. Vexler wasn't just randomly searching for alternate Bens. He was methodically mapping every reality where Ben exists and identifying which ones are most accessible from our dimension. "How many did he find?" Max asked, concern evident in his voice. Cooper's expression was grim. "Thousands. Maybe more. And he categorized them based on various factors: power level, moral alignment, accessibility. The reality we saw today, 7723, Gwen said. What made that Ben so special?" According to Vexler's notes, Cooper continued, pulling up specific data, reality 7723 experienced a critical divergence point approximately 5 years ago. In that timeline, Ben used the Omnitrix to defeat Vilgax, but instead of sparing him, he killed him, Kevin finished. "And took his technology," Cooper confirmed. Combined with the Omnitrix, it allowed that Ben to override Azimuth's safeguards. He's been systematically conquering his universe ever since. Mako felt sick. And Vexler wanted to bring him here. Why? He'd be just as likely to conquer our reality. Not if Vexler had leverage, Azimuth said, joining the discussion. Such as access to infinite realities full of alternate Omnitrixes for this dark Ben to claim. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Eclipse hadn't just been attempting dimensional travel, they'd been planning to unleash a multiversal conqueror, one wearing the face of Earth's greatest hero. "The breach is closed," Max said finally. "And Vexler is in custody. For now, that threat is contained. But we need to be vigilant. Cooper, I want constant monitoring of those dimensional weak points. If there's any sign of activity, we need to know immediately." "What about me?" Mako asked. "What's my role in all this?" All eyes turned to them, the newest Omnitrix wielder, still learning their powers but already crucial to their success today. "You," Max said, "continue training. Learning. The Omnitrix chose you for a reason, and today you showed why. Your quick thinking and adaptability saved us from a multiversal disaster." "I concur," Azimuth added, surprising everyone. "Your connection to the Omnitrix is unique. Different from Ben's, but potentially equally effective. With proper guidance, you could become a worthy successor." From Azimuth, "That's practically a marriage proposal," Kevin whispered, earning an elbow from Gwen. "So I'm officially part of the team?" Mako asked, trying to hide their excitement. You became part of the team the moment that watch attached itself to your wrist, Max said with a small smile. But yes, consider this your formal induction. Welcome to the plumbers, Mako-chin. The word sent a thrill through Mako. Despite the danger, despite the uncertainty, this felt right. For years they had studied Ben Tennyson from afar, theorizing about aliens and the Omnitrix. Now they were living it, continuing the legacy of the hero they had admired for so long. There's just one problem, Mako said. My mom is going to freak when I don't come home again tonight. The tension broke as laughter filled the room. Even Azimuth cracked a small smile. We'll handle your mother, Max assured them. The plumbers have protocols for integrating new members with civilian connections. Speaking of integration, Rook said, approaching with a tablet, I have prepared a training schedule for Mako. It includes combat instruction, alien species identification, plumber protocols, and of course, Omnitrix operation. Mako took the tablet, eyes widening at the intensive schedule. This starts at 5 a.m. tomorrow. The fate of the multiverse waits for no one, Rook said seriously, then added with a hint of humor, and punctuality is a valued plumber trait. Great, Mako muttered. Save the world, get up at the crack of dawn. No one mentioned that part of the hero gig. You'll get used to it, Gwen said sympathetically. Ben used to complain about the same thing. As the meeting adjourned, Mako found themselves drawn once more to the memorial hologram. The familiar figure rotated slowly, eternally 16 years old, eternally confident. I'm not trying to replace you, Mako said quietly to the image. But I'll do my best to protect what you fought for. The Omnitrix pulsed warmly against their wrist, almost like a response. For the first time since finding the device, Mako felt a sense of peace about their new role. They weren't Ben Tennyson, would never be Ben Tennyson. But perhaps that wasn't the point. The Omnitrix had chosen them to be Mako-chin, with all their strengths and flaws. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to face whatever came next. Dawn broke over Bellwood, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. In the training facilities deep within Plumber HQ, Mako was already hard at work, sweat dripping from their brow as they sparred with Rook in human form. Your technique is improving, Rook observed as Mako blocked a series of strikes. But you telegraph your intentions too clearly. I'm trying, Mako gasped, dodging a sweep at their legs. Not all of us had formal training on an alien warrior planet. Perhaps not, Rook conceded. But your adversaries will not make allowances for your lack of experience. With lightning speed, Rook landed a strike that sent Mako tumbling to the mat. They lay there for a moment, catching their breath. That's 15 takedowns to 0, Kevin called from the sidelines, where he was observing the session. Maybe try using the watch next time. The point of this exercise, Rook explained patiently, is to develop combat skills independent of the Omnitrix. There may be situations where transformation is impossible or inadvisable. Like when facing a quantum disruptor, Mako said, thinking back to Vexler's weapon. Got it. Climbing back to their feet, Mako assumed a fighting stance once more. This had been their routine for the past week, intensive training from dawn until dusk, learning everything from combat techniques to alien biology to plumber protocols. It was exhausting, overwhelming, and exactly what Mako needed. The structured environment and clear purpose helped keep their mind off the larger implications of what they discovered about Eclipse and the multiverse. Again, Rook instructed. This time, focus on reading my movements rather than reacting to them. As they resumed sparring, Mako found a rhythm, their body beginning to anticipate Rook's patterns. It wasn't just physical training, Mako was learning to observe, to think strategically, skills that would serve them well both in and out of alien form. When the session finally ended, Mako collapsed onto a bench, muscles burning pleasantly from exertion. Not bad, Kevin admitted, tossing them a water bottle. You lasted 2 minutes longer than yesterday before he wiped the floor with you. Thanks for the encouragement, Mako replied dryly, taking a long drink. Kevin has a point, though expressed with his characteristic lack of tact, Rook said. You are progressing rapidly. Most new recruits take months to reach your current level. Most new recruits don't have the Omnitrix, Mako pointed out. True, Rook acknowledged. But your improvement is not merely due to the device. You possess natural aptitude and determination. Before Mako could respond, their communicator beeped, Gwen requesting their presence in the lab. After a quick shower, Mako headed there to find Gwen, Cooper, and Azimuth gathered around a complex piece of equipment. You called? Mako asked, entering the lab. We've been analyzing your connection to the Omnitrix, Cooper explained, gesturing to the scanner. The data is fascinating. Unprecedented would be more accurate, Azimuth corrected. The neural integration is evolving in ways I hadn't anticipated. Is that bad? Mako asked, suddenly concerned. Not bad, Gwen assured them. Just different from how Ben's connection worked. Azimuth activated a holographic display showing two neural patterns side by side. This is Ben's connection to the Omnitrix at its strongest point. He pointed to the second pattern. And this is yours, after just 1 week. The differences were obvious even to Mako's untrained eye. Ben's connection showed strong but distinct pathways, clearly delineated. Mako's, by contrast, showed something more integrated, with neural pathways that seemed to flow in both directions. The Omnitrix isn't just responding to your commands, Cooper explained. It's actively communicating with your nervous system, sharing information, suggesting options. Like when it activates on its own to show me which alien I need, Mako realized. Precisely, Azimuth confirmed. Ben's relationship with the Omnitrix was that of user and tool, albeit an extraordinarily sophisticated one. Your relationship appears to be evolving towards something more, symbiotic. The implications were both exciting and a little unnerving. So what does that mean for me? For how I use it? It means, Azimuth said, studying Mako with newfound interest, that you may be capable of functions and abilities even Ben couldn't access. The Omnitrix contains vast knowledge, the collective experience and abilities of over 1 million species. If you can tap into that knowledge base directly, you could potentially understand alien technologies and abilities instinctively, Cooper finished. Like you did with Vexler's dimensional technology. Mako thought back to that moment at the dam, the immediate recognition of what the pylons were for, knowledge they shouldn't have possessed but somehow did. So I'm what? Downloading alien Wikipedia directly to my brain? Mako asked. Gwen smiled. Something like that. It could be an incredible advantage, especially against threats like Eclipse. Speaking of Eclipse, Cooper said, his expression growing serious, we've been monitoring the dimensional weak points Vexler identified. There's been no activity, but something odd is happening with the quantum signatures. Define odd, Azimuth requested. Cooper pulled up another display showing energy readings. They're shifting, becoming more synchronized across multiple points. It's subtle, but consistent. Almost like they're being stabilized from the other side, Azimuth finished, his expression darkening. As if someone in another reality is strengthening the connections to ours. A chill ran through Mako. The evil Ben. From Reality 7723. Impossible to confirm without more data, Cooper said. But if Vexler was in contact with that reality somehow, then our closing of the breach may have only delayed their plans, not stopped them, Gwen concluded. The lab doors opened as Max entered, his expression grave. We have a situation. Vexler has escaped custody. What? How? Mako demanded. Unknown, Max replied. His cell was found empty this morning. No signs of forced entry or exit. It's as if he simply vanished. Teleportation? Gwen suggested. Impossible, Cooper said. The detention center has quantum teleportation blockers specifically to prevent that. Unless, Azimuth said slowly, he had help from outside our dimension. Technology that could bypass our defenses by operating on a different quantum frequency. The implications hung heavy in the air. If Wexler had escaped with extradimensional assistance, then the threat was far from over. In fact, it was accelerating. "We need to find him," Mako said, determination replacing uncertainty. "Before he can try again to open a breach." Max nodded. "Agreed. Cooper, expand your monitoring to include any unusual energy signatures within a 100-mile radius. Gwen, see if you can track Wexler using your mana abilities. Azimuth, we need countermeasures for interdimensional technology." "And me?" Mako asked. "You," Max said, "continue your training. If Wexler attempts another breach, you may be our best chance to close it again." As the others dispersed to their tasks, Mako remained in the lab, studying the neural connection patterns on the display. The symbiotic relationship with the Omnitrix was evolving faster than anyone had anticipated. What did that mean for them? For their role in the coming conflict? The Omnitrix pulsed against their wrist, almost reassuringly. Whatever came next, they wouldn't face it alone. They had the legacy of Ben Tennyson, the support of his former team, and now, increasingly, the direct guidance of the Omnitrix itself. For the first time since finding the device, Mako felt not just the weight of responsibility but the certainty of purpose. They were the new Omnitrix wielder, chosen for reasons still not fully understood. But one thing was clear: Eclipse's multiversal plans had only just begun, and Mako would be at the center of stopping them. The trial by fire had forged something new in them: confidence, determination, and a growing sense that perhaps the Omnitrix had chosen correctly after all. Chapter 3, Truth and Transformation. 3 weeks after Wexler's escape, Mako crouched behind a stack of shipping containers at Bellwood Harbor, watching an Eclipse exchange through a pair of plumber-issued binoculars. Sweat trickled down their neck despite the cool night air. "Targets moving," Mako whispered into their comm. "3 operatives, northeast loading dock. They're transferring some kind of tech." "Visual confirmation on the tech." Rook's voice came through the earpiece. Mako adjusted the binoculars, zooming in on a metallic case being handed between operatives. "Looks like the same quantum stabilizers we found at their Chicago facility last week." "Hold position," Max instructed over the comm. "Kevin's team is moving into blocking position. Wait for my signal." This had become the new normal, tracking Eclipse operations, gathering intelligence, occasionally disrupting their plans when the opportunity arose. Since Wexler's mysterious escape, Eclipse had gone underground, operating through disconnected cells that made them frustratingly hard to pin down. The Omnitrix hummed softly against Mako's wrist, almost eager for action. That was new too, a growing awareness of the device's responses, like it was communicating through sensations rather than words. "You'll get your chance soon enough," Mako muttered to it. "Talking to your watch again." Gwen's voice came from directly behind them. Mako managed not to jump, though their hearts skipped. In the 3 weeks they'd been working with Ben's cousin, they still hadn't gotten used to how silently she could move when using her mana abilities. "It talks back in its own way," Mako defended, making room for Gwen behind the container. "Find anything on the north side?" 2 more operatives guarding a speedboat, she confirmed. "Definitely planning a water escape route." "Team 2 in position," Kevin's voice reported over the comm, "ready to move on your go." "All units, prepare to engage," Max ordered. "Primary objective is capturing the quantum tech. Secondary is apprehending Eclipse personnel for interrogation." "Mako, stay back until needed, transform only if necessary," Mako finished, having heard the instructions on every mission. "I know the drill, Max." "Then prove it by following orders this time," Max replied, though Mako could hear the hint of affection beneath the gruffness. "That was one time," Mako protested. "And that warehouse was already on fire before I went 4 arms." Gwen smothered a laugh. "Focus, rookie. Here we go." On Max's signal, plumber agents emerged from concealed positions around the harbor. The element of surprise gave them an immediate advantage as they closed in on the Eclipse operatives. Mako and Gwen held position, watching as Kevin's team intercepted the tech transfer. For a moment, it looked like the operation would go smoothly, until one of the Eclipse operatives raised his arm, revealing a device that sent out a pulse of energy. EMP, someone shouted as plumber tech went dark across the harbor. In the confusion that followed, the Eclipse operatives made their move, one grabbing the case of quantum tech and sprinting toward the speedboat Gwen had spotted. They're making a break for it. Mako called into the now-dead comm, "Gwen, can you?" But Gwen was already moving, mana platforms forming beneath her feet as she pursued. Mako hesitated, remembering orders to stay back, then cursed under their breath and gave chase. Max's instructions hadn't accounted for an EMP taking out their communications. The operative with the case had a head start, but Mako had been training hard. 3 weeks of Rook's punishing physical regimen had transformed their formerly average physique, and they closed the distance rapidly. "Plumbers! Stop!" Mako shouted, more out of protocol than expectation. The operative glanced back, then raised a weapon. Mako dove behind a forklift as energy blasts scorched the concrete where they'd been standing. "So much for the diplomatic approach," Mako muttered, activating the Omnitrix. The display came to life instantly. One advantage of its partially biological nature was immunity to conventional EMPs. Mako cycled through alien options rapidly, the process now second nature. The Omnitrix pulsed, highlighting an insectoid form, Crash Hopper. Perfect for closing distance quickly. With practiced motion, Mako transformed. The sensation was almost pleasant now, their body adapting to the reconfiguration of DNA. In seconds, they stood taller, body encased in green exoskeleton, powerful spring-like legs ready for action. "Catch me if you can," Crash Hopper called out, voice resonating with insectoid clicks. With a powerful thrust, Mako launched into the air, sailing over the forklift and surrounding obstacles. The Eclipse operative fired wildly, but Crash Hopper's agility made them nearly impossible to hit. Each leap closed more distance, ricocheting off shipping containers and cranes. "Hand over the case," Mako demanded, landing directly in the operative's path. "This doesn't have to get messy." The operative sneered beneath his mask. "The replacement hero. Not quite Ben 10, are you?" The taunt stung, but Mako had heard worse over the past weeks. "You're right. I'm better at math. That's why I know your odds are pretty bad right now." Before the operative could respond, Mako launched forward in a tackle that sent them both rolling across the concrete. The case skidded away as they grappled. Despite weeks of combat training, Mako quickly realized the operative was more skilled. Even with Crash Hopper's enhanced strength and reflexes, they found themselves struggling as the operative applied a joint lock that sent pain shooting through their limb. "Amateur," the operative hissed, twisting harder. Mako gritted their teeth, then did something Ben might never have thought of, they deliberately timed out the transformation. The Omnitrix beeped in warning, then flashed red as Crash Hopper's form dissolved back to human. The sudden change in size and proportion broke the joint lock, catching the operative by surprise. Mako, now human again, used the moment of confusion to drive an elbow into the operative's solar plexus, a move Rook had drilled into them repeatedly. The operative doubled over, gasping. Mako followed with a sweeping kick that took the operative's legs out from under them. "Who's the amateur now?" Mako panted, diving for the case. Their fingers had just closed around the handle when something struck them from behind, another operative, arriving to back up their comrade. Mako rolled with the impact, coming up in a defensive stance as 2 Eclipse agents now circled them. "Anytime you want to jump in, Gwen," Mako called out, looking for backup. No response came. Glancing around, Mako spotted her in the distance, engaged with 3 other operatives. She had problems of her own. The Omnitrix was still in recharge mode, its face glowing red. Mako backed up slowly, keeping both operatives in view. "So, you guys get dental with Eclipse? Asking for a friend who's about to knock your teeth out. Brave words from someone cornered and outnumbered, the first operative said, drawing a serrated combat knife. Outnumbered, sure, Mako agreed, continuing to back up until they felt the edge of the dock behind them. Cornered? That depends on your perspective. The operatives advanced cautiously, one moving left, one right, standard flanking maneuver. Mako waited until they committed, then did the unexpected, they backflipped. Off the dock into the harbor waters below. The shock of cold water hit like a physical blow, but Mako was prepared. They swam downward, away from where the operatives would expect, using the murky harbor water for cover. The Omnitrix beeped against their wrist, its face switching from red to green. Underwater options appeared in the display. Ripjaws would be the obvious choice, but the Omnitrix was suggesting something else, amphibian. Good call, Mako thought, selecting the transformation. The change underwater was disorienting but effective. Mako's body stretched and morphed into the jellyfish-like amphibian form, transparent skin pulsing with bioelectrical energy. Most importantly, they could now breathe underwater and move with incredible speed through the liquid environment. Surfacing cautiously, Mako spotted the two operatives still searching the water's edge for signs of their quarry. The case containing the quantum tech sat momentarily forgotten on the dock behind them. Perfect. With amphibian's electrokinetic abilities, Mako sent a controlled pulse through the water, striking both operatives simultaneously. The shock wasn't lethal but delivered enough voltage to temporarily incapacitate them. They collapsed to the dock, twitching. Mako emerged from the water, tentacles extending to grab the case. Shocking development, huh guys? Plumber agents, freeze. New voices joined the confrontation as Rook and his team arrived, weapons trained on the downed operatives. Little late to the party, Mako noted, holding up the secured case. Rook surveyed the scene, taking in the unconscious operatives and Mako's dripping amphibian form. I see you followed orders to stay back and observe as meticulously as always. Communications were down, Mako defended, transforming back to human with a flash of green light. And the tech was about to disappear with these guys. Your impulsiveness continues to be both your greatest strength and most concerning weakness, Rook observed, though Mako could swear they saw a hint of approval in his eyes. As plumber agents secured the Eclipse operatives, Max approached, expression a mixture of frustration and resignation. Before you start, Mako said, holding up the case, I got the tech. And nearly got yourself captured in the process, Max countered, taking the case. These aren't random thugs, Mako. Eclipse operatives are highly trained and specifically prepared to deal with Omnitrix abilities. Which is why I didn't rely solely on alien powers, Mako pointed out. I used human tactics too. That's what all this training has been about, right? Integrating both sides of what I can do. Max studied them for a moment, then sighed. You're learning. I'll give you that. But there's a difference between tactical adaptation and reckless improvisation. Noted, Mako said, trying to sound appropriately chastened. Won't happen again. Yes it will, Max said, but a small smile broke through his stern expression. Ben was the same way. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. The comparison to Ben no longer stung as it once had. After 3 weeks of intensive training and field operations, Mako had stopped trying to measure up to Ben's legacy and started focusing on forging their own. Did we get them all? Mako asked, looking around the harbor where multiple Eclipse operatives were being loaded into plumber transport vehicles. Not all, Kevin said, joining them with Gwen at his side. Their commander got away on the speedboat. But we got the tech and 6 operatives. That's a win. Let's hope one of them feels talkative, Max said. We need to locate their base of operations and find Vexler before they attempt another dimensional breach. As the cleanup operation continued, Mako wrung water from their soaked clothing, the adrenaline of battle fading to leave exhaustion in its wake. 3 weeks of non-stop training and missions was taking its toll, but they wouldn't admit it aloud. Kevin noticed anyway. You look like something the bug lizard dragged in. When's the last time you Slept. Sleep is for people without interdimensional threats to stop, Mako replied, stifling a yawn. Even heroes need rest, Gwen said gently. You're no good to anyone if you burn out. I'll sleep when we find Vexler, Mako insisted. Fortunately, Rook interjected, examining a device recovered from one of the operatives, that may be sooner than anticipated. This communication device contains encrypted coordinates. If Cooper can break the encryption, we might find their next meeting point, Mako finished, suddenly energized again. Max took the device, studying it carefully. Good work, everyone. Let's get this back to headquarters for analysis. And Mako, he fixed them with a look that brooked no argument, you're taking 12 hours mandatory rest. That's an order. Mako wanted to protest but found they lacked the energy. Fine. But wake me the second Cooper finds anything. Kevin clapped a hand on their shoulder. Come on, rookie. I'll give you a ride back to base. Try not to drip too much on my seats. 12 hours of enforced rest turned into nearly 18 as exhaustion claimed Mako the moment their head hit the pillow in their quarters at Plumber HQ. They woke disoriented, for a moment forgetting where they were or how they'd gotten there. The Omnitrix pulsed softly against their wrist, a now familiar good morning greeting. Mako had stopped finding it weird how the device seemed increasingly attuned to their moods and physical state. What time is it? Mako mumbled, checking the clock and bolting upright. Crap. After a rushed shower and change into the modified plumber uniform they'd been issued, black with green accents instead of the standard white, a nod to the Omnitrix's color scheme, Mako hurried to the command center. They found the core team already assembled, Max, Gwen, Kevin, Rook, and Cooper hunched over displays and star charts. Sorry I'm late, Mako said, trying to smooth down their still damp hair. Someone should have woken me. You needed the rest, Max said without looking up from the star chart. Besides, Cooper only finished the decryption an hour ago. And? Mako asked eagerly, joining the group. Cooper gestured to the display. The coordinates weren't for Earth. They're for a space station in the Andromeda system, specifically, orbital platform K9. K9. Mako frowned. Why does that sound familiar? Because it was decommissioned 5 years ago after Ben exposed it as a front for arms dealers, Gwen explained. It was supposed to be dismantled, but apparently Eclipse got their hands on it instead, Kevin finished. Perfect remote base. Off the grid, already equipped with advanced tech. And, Rook added, pointing to a specific region of space near the station, located near one of the dimensional weak points Vexler identified. Mako studied the display, excitement building. So this could be their main base. Where Vexler's been hiding. It fits the pattern, Max confirmed. Remote location, access to the kind of power systems needed for dimensional technology, proximity to a weak point. When do we leave? Mako asked. We don't, Max replied, earning a surprised look from everyone. Not all of us. This needs to be a small, specialized team. In and out before Eclipse realizes we found them. I'm going, Mako stated flatly, crossing their arms. Actually, I was counting on that, Max said. You, Gwen, and Rook will infiltrate the station. Kevin and I will provide backup in the Rust Bucket 3, ready for extraction. Why those three specifically? Cooper asked. Mako's connection to the Omnitrix gives us our best chance against whatever dimensional technology Vexler is using, Max explained. Gwen's mana abilities allow her to sense and counter energy fluctuations. And Rook has more experience with space station operations than anyone else on the team. Mako felt a surge of pride at being included in the strike team. After weeks of being treated largely as a rookie in training, this was Max acknowledging their growing capabilities. When do we launch? Rook asked. 6 hours, Max replied. That gives us time to prep equipment and review station schematics. Cooper, you'll coordinate from HQ, monitoring communications and providing technical support. What about me? A new voice asked. Everyone turned to see Julie entering the command center, Ship perched on her shoulder in his compact form. Max hesitated. Julie, this mission involves dimensional technology that could potentially access other realities where Ben exists, Julie finished for him. Ship and I have been helping analyze the quantum stabilizers you recovered. We know this tech better than anyone except Cooper. She has a point, Gwen supported. And Ship's ability to interface with and control technology could be crucial if we need to shut down their systems quickly. Max considered for a moment, then nodded. All right. Julie and Ship will join the infiltration team. But everyone follows Rook's lead once you're on the station. Clear. Nods all around, though Mako caught Kevin's subtle eye roll. The older teen still struggled sometimes with taking orders, even after years as a plumber. As the meeting broke up to allow everyone to prepare, Mako approached Julie. They hadn't worked closely with Ben's ex-girlfriend yet, and her sudden interest in joining the mission piqued their curiosity. So, what's the real reason you want in on this one? Mako asked directly. Julie studied them for a moment, Ship chirping curiously on her shoulder. You don't mince words, do you? Life's too short, especially in this line of work, Mako shrugged. A small smile touched Julie's lips. Fair enough. The truth is, if there's even a chance of finding a reality where Ben is still alive, I need to be there. Not to interfere or change anything. Just to know. The honesty caught Mako off guard. You still care about him that much? Even after we broke up. Julie finished. Relationships end, Mako. Doesn't mean the caring stops. She absently stroked Ship, who nuzzled against her hand. Besides, whatever happened between us personally, Ben was always there when the world needed him. Now the worlds, plural, might need him again. Or at least, need us to stop Eclipse from finding him. Mako nodded slowly, understanding dawning. You're not looking for closure. You're protecting his legacy. Same as the rest of us. Something like that, Julie agreed. Now, let's go prepare. I hear you've been developing some interesting new techniques with the Omnitrix. Ship's eager to see what you can do. The small galvanic mechamorph on her shoulder beeped excitedly, morphing briefly into a miniature version of the Omnitrix before returning to his blob-like form. Show off, Mako laughed. But sure, we can compare notes. I've got a few tricks even Ben never tried. 6 hours later, the Rust Bucket 3 detached from Earth's orbit, its enhanced engines pushing it to speeds that made conventional spacecraft look like they were standing still. Inside, the team made final preparations, checking equipment and reviewing mission parameters. Mako sat apart from the others for a moment, eyes closed, focusing on the Omnitrix. Over the past weeks, they'd been practicing the mental communication Azimuth had helped them discover, not quite conversation, but a sharing of intent and information. Show me what I might need, Mako thought toward the device. What forms would work best for space station infiltration? Images flickered through their mind, alien forms suited for vacuum survival, technopathic abilities, stealth capabilities. But also, unexpectedly, combat forms. The Omnitrix seemed to be warning that this wouldn't be a simple in-and-out mission. Everything okay? Gwen asked, sitting beside them. Mako opened their eyes. The Omnitrix is being chatty. Keeps showing me heavy hitters along with the infiltration specialists. It's been right before, Gwen noted. That connection you have, it's different from what Ben experienced. More intuitive. Yeah, well, I hope it's wrong this time, Mako sighed. I'd prefer a quiet mission for once. Gwen smiled sympathetically. In this line of work? Don't count on it. The journey to K9 station would take several hours even with the Rust Bucket's advanced propulsion. Mako used the time to rest and center themselves, knowing that whatever awaited them would require their full focus. When they finally approached the Andromeda system, Max activated the ship's stealth systems, bringing them in slowly to avoid detection. "There it is," Rook announced, pointing to a structure barely visible against the backdrop of space. Mako moved to the viewport, taking in their first real view of K-9 station. It resembled a mechanical snowflake, with 6 arms extending from a central hub. Unlike most space stations Mako had seen in photos, this one had a haphazard quality, obviously modified many times over its operational life. "Looks like they've added some serious firepower," Kevin observed, noting weapons emplacements along the arms. "Those aren't standard issue for a commercial platform." "Eclipse has been busy," Max agreed. "Thermal scans show approximately 50 life forms aboard. Most concentrated in the central hub and the eastern arm." "That's where we'll find Vexler," Gwen said with certainty. "I can sense unusual energy patterns from that section, similar to what we encountered at the dam." Rook outlined the infiltration plan, using a holographic display of the station. "We'll dock at this maintenance port on the western arm, least likely to be monitored. From there, we move through these service tunnels to reach the eastern section. Ship can interface with their systems once we're aboard," Julie added. "Give us control of internal sensors, maybe even life support if needed. Remember, primary objective is confirmation of Vexler's presence and assessment of their dimensional technology," Max emphasized. "Secondary is data retrieval, anything that tells us more about their plans. Engage only if necessary, and maintain calm silence unless emergency protocols are required." The infiltration team, Rook, Gwen, Mako, Julie, and Ship, prepared in the airlock, donning specialized plumber spacesuits designed for stealth operations. "These are cool," Mako commented, examining the suit's adaptive camouflage features. "They'll keep you alive in vacuum and mask your heat signature," Kevin said, helping check Julie's equipment. "Just don't tear them. Space tends to be unforgiving about that sort of thing." "Comforting," Mako muttered. Rook distributed specialized equipment, compact scanning devices, non-electrical weapons for emergencies, and small charges for potential sabotage needs. "Remember your training," he told Mako. "Stay focused. Follow protocols, and don't transform unless absolutely necessary," Mako finished. "I know. But if things go sideways, use your judgment," Max said, joining them in the airlock. "That's why you're on this team. You've earned that trust." The words meant more than Max probably realized. After weeks of proving themselves in smaller missions, this acknowledgement of Mako's growth felt significant. "We'll be monitoring from a safe distance," Max continued. "Emergency extraction is 3 minutes from signal. Don't hesitate if you need it." With final checks completed, the team moved into the small transport pod that would carry them to the station's maintenance dock. As the pod detached from the rust bucket, Mako felt a familiar mix of excitement and anxiety, the pre-mission jitters they were learning to channel rather than suppress. The approach to K-9 was tense but uneventful. Their small craft, designed to resemble maintenance debris, drifted toward the station without power until the last moment. Rook guided them to a perfect docking at an airlock that showed no signs of recent use. "So far so good," Gwen whispered as Ship extended part of himself to interface with the airlock controls. After a tense minute, the lock cycled open, allowing them entry to an abandoned maintenance bay. Once inside, Julie instructed Ship to merge with the station's systems, his liquid form disappearing into an access panel. "He'll create a secure network for us," Julie explained, activating a small display on her wrist. "We'll have access to internal schematics and security feeds." "Efficient," Rook approved. "Now, we move quickly and quietly. Follow my lead." The western arm of K-9 was eerily silent, clearly unused by the current occupants. Emergency lighting cast long shadows as they moved through corridors thick with dust. "They've consolidated operations to minimize resource usage," Rook observed, studying readings on his proto-tool. "Atmosphere and gravity only maintained in actively used sections." "Smart," Mako noted. "Makes it easier to defend too," funnel any borders through predictable routes. Gwen looked at Mako with surprise. You've been studying space station tactics? Been studying everything, Mako replied. Never know what might come in handy. They navigated through the abandoned sections, occasionally freezing as distant sounds echoed through the structure. As they approached the central hub, signs of occupation increased: equipment crates, power cables running along floors, fresh scuff marks on walls. Julie's display beeped softly as ship sent data. I've got station schematics. 3 checkpoint stations between us and the eastern arm. Each manned by at least 2 guards. Can we bypass them? Mako asked. Rook examined the schematics. Perhaps. These maintenance shafts run parallel to the main corridors. Designed for repair drones, but we might fit. Might being the operative word, Gwen noted, eyeing the narrow passages. Or, Mako suggested, I could transform into something small enough to navigate easily. Gray matter could fit without issue. Rook considered this. The transformation flash might be detected by security sensors. Ship can mask it, Julie said, checking her display. He's got control of this section's sensors now. Decision made, Mako activated the Omnitrix, selecting the Galvan form. The familiar green flash was muted somehow, Ship's influence on the local systems preventing it from registering on security protocols. Gray matter stood where Mako had been, tiny body perfectly suited for the narrow maintenance shafts. I'll scout ahead, they offered, voice high-pitched but clear. Gray matter can analyze their security systems and find the best approach. Stay in communication range, Rook instructed, handing them a miniaturized comm device. No unnecessary risks. Define unnecessary, Gray matter quipped, already climbing into the shaft entrance. The maintenance tunnels were a maze of pipes, cables, and automated repair systems long since abandoned. For a human, navigation would have been nearly impossible. For gray matter, with enhanced intelligence and perspective, it was merely a complex puzzle to solve. Mako moved efficiently, mapping the route in their enhanced Galvan mind while analyzing every system they encountered. As they approached the first checkpoint, they slowed, peering through a ventilation grate at the Eclipse operatives below. 2 guards stood at a security station, monitoring displays and occasionally communicating via headsets. Their weapons, advanced plasma rifles, rested within easy reach. Most importantly, they wore the same type of armor Mako had encountered in previous confrontations with Eclipse, designed to resist various alien abilities. First checkpoint observed, gray matter reported quietly into their comm, 2 guards, standard Eclipse equipment. Security console shows camera feeds from throughout the station. Can you access the console? Rook asked. Affirmative, gray matter confirmed. There's a maintenance access point directly above it. I can interface from here without being detected. With careful movements, gray matter extended tiny arms through a small opening, connecting to the security console's internal components. The enhanced intelligence of their Galvan form made the system pathetically simple to manipulate. I'm in, they reported. Looping camera feeds for all checkpoints. They'll see empty corridors for the next 20 minutes. Good work, Rook approved. What about the eastern arm? Can you see what they're doing there? Gray matter accessed additional security feeds, focusing on the eastern section. What they saw made their tiny heart race. It's definitely their main operation, they reported. I'm seeing at least 20 personnel, advanced equipment, and... They paused, zooming in on a specific feed, dimensional technology. Similar to what we saw at the dam, but much larger scale. Vexler? Gwen asked. Negative visual confirmation yet, gray matter replied, continuing to cycle through feeds. But there's a restricted area at the far end of the arm. Limited camera coverage. That's where we need to go, Julie decided. Ship is reporting unusual power fluctuations from that section. Gray matter continued analyzing the security systems, identifying the safest route. I can disable the checkpoint doors from here. Give me 2 minutes. Working quickly, the tiny alien rerouted security protocols, creating a clear path through the checkpoints while leaving no trace of tampering that would trigger alarms. Done, Gray Matter announced. You have a clear path through all 3 checkpoints. The guards will see locked doors on their consoles, but they'll actually be open for you. Rendezvous at the entrance to the eastern arm, Rook instructed. We'll proceed together from there. Gray Matter acknowledged, then continued through the maintenance tunnels, moving ahead of the team to ensure the path remained clear. As they approached the eastern arm, the maintenance shaft widened, clearly designed for larger repair equipment. The sight that greeted them as they peered into the eastern section confirmed their worst fears. Eclipse had transformed the entire arm into a massive laboratory, with the dimensional technology as its centerpiece. A ring-shaped platform dominated the space, surrounded by equipment far more sophisticated than what they'd encountered at the dam. And standing at a control console, directing operations with cold precision, was Dr. Emil Wexler himself. Visual confirmation on Wexler, Gray Matter reported. He's overseeing what appears to be final preparations for a dimensional breach attempt. How soon? Gwen's voice came through with urgency. Gray Matter studied the equipment, making rapid calculations. Based on power buildup and configuration, less than 30 minutes. We need to move now, Rook decided. Rendezvous at your position in 3 minutes. Gray Matter continued observing, documenting everything with their enhanced memory. Something about the configuration seemed off, different from the technology at the dam. It wasn't just larger, it was fundamentally altered in purpose. This isn't the same tech, Gray Matter realized aloud. The dam equipment was designed to create a stable breach, like opening a door. This is more like a fishing net. They're not trying to create a full portal, they're trying to locate and tag specific realities. For what purpose? Julie asked. I don't know yet, Gray Matter admitted. But whatever they're doing, it's more precise than before. More targeted. The team arrived moments later, gathering at the maintenance shaft exit where Gray Matter waited. Mako transformed back to human form, the flash once again dampened by ship's control of local systems. We need to get closer, Mako said immediately. See exactly what they're planning. Rook scanned the laboratory space. Too many personnel for direct approach. We need a distraction. Or a disguise, Julie suggested. Ship could create replicas of their uniforms, cover us long enough to get to that restricted area. Too risky, Gwen countered. If anyone looks closely, I have a better idea, Mako interrupted, cycling through the Omnitrix display. Chameleon. Merlinosapian DNA grants near-perfect invisibility. Before anyone could object, Mako activated the transformation. Their body shifted into the reptilian alien form, skin immediately adapting to blend perfectly with the surroundings until only a faint outline remained visible. I can get close without being detected, Chameleon said, voice a low rasp. Scout the restricted area, then report back. Rook looked like he wanted to object but recognized the logic. Very well. But maintain communication and retreat at the first sign of detection. I'm going too, Gwen decided, her hands glowing briefly as she cast a spell. Invisibilis. Her form shimmered, becoming translucent. Not as complete as your transformation, but enough to avoid casual detection. I'll monitor from here with ship, Julie said. We can warn you of any security changes. With the plan established, Mako and Gwen moved silently into the laboratory area, keeping to shadows and using equipment for cover despite their invisibility. Chameleon's natural stealth abilities made Mako nearly undetectable, while Gwen's spell-enhanced movements were almost as quiet. They navigated around busy Eclipse personnel, all focused on preparations for whatever Wexler had planned. As they approached the restricted area, they encountered their first real obstacle, a biometric security door. Problem, Chameleon whispered into their comm, handprint and retinal scanner. Can you override it? Rook asked. Not without revealing myself, Chameleon replied. Wait. Gwen whispered. Look at the scanner more closely. Chameleon examined the security panel, noticing something odd about the design. It's scanning for specific DNA patterns, not just physical features. Ship says it's keyed specifically to Vexler, Julie reported through the comm, no one else can access it. Chameleon considered their options. The Omnitrix can temporarily replicate DNA patterns. If I can get a sample from Vexler. Too dangerous, Rook immediately vetoed. We need a different approach. Like what? Chameleon asked. We have less than 20 minutes before they activate whatever this is. We need to see what's behind that door. Gwen studied the laboratory, then pointed to a ventilation system. There. Those ducts must connect to the restricted area for atmosphere regulation. Good eye, Chameleon approved. I'll check it out. Be careful, Gwen warned. I'll create a distraction if needed. Chameleon moved silently to the ventilation access, using their enhanced strength to carefully remove the cover. The duct was narrow but navigable in their current form. With one last glance at Gwen, Mako slipped into the ventilation system, relying on Chameleon's natural climbing abilities to move horizontally through the shaft. The duct led exactly where they hoped, into the restricted area beyond the security door. Chameleon emerged silently, maintaining invisibility as they surveyed the room. What they saw made them freeze in shock. The chamber contained a smaller version of the dimensional technology outside, but with a crucial difference: this one was active, maintaining a small, stable portal roughly the size of a dinner plate. And through that portal, Mako could see what appeared to be a laboratory in another reality. More disturbing was what surrounded the portal: dozens of screens displaying different realities, each focused on one individual, Ben Tennyson. Different versions of him, from different timelines and dimensions. Some looked almost identical to the Ben that Mako had researched, others were dramatically different, older, younger, some with strange modifications to their Omnitrixes. Guys, Chameleon whispered into the comm, you need to see this. Vexler hasn't just been researching alternate realities, he's been monitoring them. Dozens of them. All focused on different versions of Ben. Can you access their data? Rook asked. Working on it, Chameleon replied, moving carefully to a console. As they began examining the system, the security door suddenly hissed open. Chameleon pressed against a wall, relying on their invisibility as Vexler himself entered, accompanied by another figure, someone Mako didn't recognize. The calibrations are complete, Vexler was saying. The tracking system will lock onto the target reality within minutes. You've promised results before, the other figure replied, voice cold and somehow familiar though Mako couldn't place it. I'm growing impatient, Doctor. This time is different, Vexler insisted. We've narrowed it down to 3 potential realities where the Omnitrix Prime exists. Once we establish the resonance lock, we can begin extraction preparations. And the new Omnitrix wielder, the mysterious figure asked. Have you located them? Not yet, Vexler admitted. But they'll reveal themselves soon enough. The plumbers have been increasingly active, disrupting our operations. It's only a matter of time before they discover this facility. The figure turned, and for the first time, Mako got a clear view of their face. Recognition hit like a physical blow. It was an older man, perhaps in his 50s, with features that bore a striking resemblance to Ben Tennyson. Older, harder, with a scar running down one side of his face, but unmistakably related. I want that Omnitrix, Vexler, the man said coldly. I've waited too long to be denied again. You'll have it, Mr. Tennyson, Vexler assured him. Both of them. Mako nearly lost control of their invisibility from shock. Tennyson. Who was this man? A relative of Ben's they'd never heard about. The comm unit in their ear crackled softly. Mako, Gwen's urgent voice came through. We have a problem. Eclipse security just went on high alert. I think they detected ship's interface. Before Mako could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The mysterious Tennyson figure spun toward Vexler. "What is that?" he demanded. Vexler rushed to a console. "Perimeter breach. Someone's accessed our systems." "The plumbers," the man snarled. "Accelerate the tracking sequence. We need that lock before they interfere." Mako knew their cover was blown. With the station on alert, staying hidden was secondary to stopping whatever Vexler was about to do. Decision made, they dropped their invisibility, transforming back to human form with a flash of green light. "That's not happening," Mako announced, activating the Omnitrix again as both men spun toward them in shock. Vexler recovered first. "Intruder. Security to the restricted lab immediately." The mysterious Tennyson stared at Mako, eyes fixing on the Omnitrix. "So this is Ben's replacement," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "Hardly seems worthy." "Who are you?" Mako demanded, selecting an alien form from the display. A cold smile spread across the man's face. "You mean they haven't told you?" "I'm Carl Tennyson. Ben's father." The revelation hit Mako like a physical blow. Ben's father? Working with Eclipse? It made no sense. Every record indicated Carl Tennyson was an ordinary human with no involvement in his son's heroics. "You're lying," Mako accused. "Carl Tennyson lives in Bellwood. He's not part of this. The Carl Tennyson you know is a weakling who never understood his son's potential," the man replied. "I, however, come from a reality where I recognized the power of the Omnitrix from the beginning. Where I guided my son to greatness instead of holding him back." Understanding dawned on Mako. "You're from another reality. An alternate version of Ben's father." "The superior version," he corrected. "And soon, I'll have access to the most powerful Omnitrix in the multiverse, the one my son in Reality 7723 wields." "Team, we have a situation," Mako said urgently into their comm. "Vexler's partner is an alternate version of Carl Tennyson. They're trying to lock onto Reality 7723 right now. Stop them." Max's voice came through, all pretense of calm silence abandoned. "That reality contains the most dangerous version of the Omnitrix ever created." Mako didn't hesitate, slamming down the Omnitrix dial. The transformation was instant. 4 arms, the Tetraman form, massive and powerful. "This ends now," 4 arms declared, advancing on the dimensional equipment. "Security!" Vexler shouted again, backing away. Carl Tennyson, however, didn't retreat. Instead, he smiled coldly and raised his arm, revealing a device Mako had never seen before. It resembled a gauntlet, with technology that looked similar to but distinct from the Omnitrix. "You think you're the only one with access to alien powers?" he asked, activating the device. Energy coursed over Carl's body as he transformed, not into a single alien, but into what appeared to be a hybrid form combining multiple alien traits. His body expanded, taking on elements of Pyronite, Petrosapien, and several other species Mako couldn't immediately identify. "Meet the amalgam," Carl said, his voice distorted by the transformation. "Inferior to the Omnitrix, perhaps, but more than enough to deal with an amateur." Before Mako could react, the amalgam struck with devastating force, sending 4 arms crashing through equipment and into the laboratory beyond. Eclipse personnel scattered as the 2 powerful beings grappled. "Mako!" Gwen called, dropping her invisibility and rushing forward, hands glowing with mana. The amalgam turned, firing a blast of combined energy, flame and crystal shards wrapped in electrical discharge. Gwen barely managed to erect a shield in time. "Get Vexler!" 4 arms shouted to her, recovering and charging back into the fight. "Stop the dimensional lock." Gwen nodded, redirecting her focus to where Vexler was frantically working at the controls, trying to complete the tracking sequence before they could stop him. 4 arms engaged the amalgam, matching strength with strength. Despite being new to the hero business, Mako had trained extensively with this form, knowing its capabilities and limitations. The amalgam might have more varied abilities, but 4 arms had raw power few could match. "You're fighting for a legacy you don't understand," Carl taunted as they exchanged devastating blows. Ben was meant for greatness, not playing hero to a universe that never appreciated him. "You didn't know him," 4 arms countered, landing a powerful uppercut that sent the amalgam staggering. The Ben of this reality was exactly who he wanted to be. "A wasted potential," Carl sneered, recovering quickly. Like father, like son. Outside the restricted area, chaos had erupted as Rook and Julie engaged Eclipse security forces. Ship had merged with Julie's body, creating battle armor that matched the Eclipse operatives' weapons with equal firepower. "We need to reach Mako and Gwen," Rook called, his proto-tool shifting forms rapidly as he fought through guards. "Working on it," Julie replied, Ship's form adapting to create shields against incoming fire. Inside, Gwen had reached Vexler, mana bonds restraining him from the controls. "Shut it down," she demanded. "Now." "Too late," Vexler laughed, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "The tracking sequence is locked. In moments, we'll have the coordinates for Reality 7723. Even if you stop us here, others will complete our work." 4 arms and the amalgam continued their brutal battle, destroying equipment and tearing through walls as they fought. Though physically powerful, Mako found themselves at a disadvantage against the amalgam's diverse abilities. When 4 arms closed for hand-to-hand combat, Carl would shift to ranged attacks using pyronite flames or petrosapian crystals. "You're out of your depth, child," Carl mocked. "The Omnitrix chose poorly after my son's demise. Did you have something to do with that?" 4 arms demanded, a suspicion forming. "With Ben's death?" A cruel smile spread across the amalgam's distorted face. "Let's just say I ensured this reality's Omnitrix would be available when the time came. A shame it found you instead of coming to me directly." Rage surged through Mako at the confirmation. This alternate Carl had arranged Ben's murder, all to create an opportunity to acquire the Omnitrix. "You killed your own son," 4 arms growled, renewed fury powering their attacks. "An inferior version of my son," Carl corrected. "A necessary sacrifice for the greater work." The battle intensified, 4 arms driving the amalgam back with sheer determination. But as they fought, Mako noticed the dimensional equipment behind them activating. The tracking sequence Vexler had initiated was nearing completion. "Gwen!" 4 arms called. "The breach!" Gwen turned from the restrained Vexler, seeing the equipment powering up. "I can't shut it down from here." "Then we destroy it," 4 arms decided, disengaging from the amalgam and charging toward the equipment. "No!" Carl shouted, firing a concentrated blast that caught 4 arms in the back, sending them sprawling. The Omnitrix symbol on 4 arms' shoulder beeped in warning. The transformation was nearing its time limit. Mako needed to act fast. As Carl advanced, believing he had the upper hand, Mako made a tactical decision. They deliberately triggered the Omnitrix timeout, reverting to human form. "Surrendering already?" Carl mocked. "Adapting," Mako corrected, immediately reactivating the Omnitrix and selecting a new form. The transformation was instantaneous, Diamond Head, the Petrosapian form, crystalline body gleaming under the laboratory lights. "Let's see how your hybrid crystals match up against the real thing," Diamond Head challenged. Before Carl could respond, Diamond Head thrust their hands into the floor, sending a wave of crystals spreading rapidly toward the dimensional equipment. Crystalline structures erupted through delicate machinery, shattering components and disrupting power conduits. "No!" Vexler screamed, breaking free from Gwen's momentary distraction to lunge for the controls. Too late. The crystal wave engulfed the entire apparatus, rendering it useless in seconds. Sparks flew as power surged through now disconnected circuits, followed by the dull thud of emergency shutdowns activating throughout the lab. Carl roared in fury, the amalgam form surging with fiery energy. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Years of preparation, ruined. Stopped a multiversal threat. Diamond Head suggested. Yeah, I'd call that a good day's work. With unexpected speed, Carl charged, tackling Diamond Head through the ruined equipment and into the wall beyond. The impact was jarring, even for a crystalline form. I don't need Vexler's equipment, Carl snarled, his amalgam face inches from Diamond Head's. The amalgam can track dimensional signatures too, it will just take longer. You've delayed the inevitable. Maybe, Diamond Head conceded, but delays matter. With a sudden movement, Diamond Head formed their arm into a crystal blade, severing the connection between the amalgam gauntlet and Carl's body. The effect was immediate, the hybrid form began to destabilize, energy crackling as it tried to maintain cohesion. Carl staggered back, the amalgam form flickering. What have you done? Cut your connection, Diamond Head explained, rising to their feet. That gauntlet isn't fully bonded to you like the Omnitrix is to me. It's just technology you're wearing. And technology can be broken. The laboratory doors burst open as Rook and Julie fought their way through, ship's armor form giving Julie enhanced strength and protection. Behind them, Eclipse security forces were retreating, clearly recognizing the mission was compromised. It's over, Tennyson, Rook declared, proto-tool aimed at the flickering amalgam. Surrender. Carl looked around at the ruins of his plan, the destroyed equipment, his failing amalgam form, his subordinates retreating. But instead of despair, his face showed only cold calculation. This battle, perhaps, he acknowledged. Then, faster than anyone could react, he lunged for the remains of the dimensional portal, the small, stable connection that had been monitoring alternate realities. Though damaged, it still maintained a tenuous connection. Carl pressed the failing amalgam gauntlet against it, creating a feedback loop of dimensional energy. Stop him! Gwen shouted, recognizing the danger. Diamond Head fired crystal shards, but too late. The dimensional energy surged, creating a localized breach just large enough for one person. Carl Tennyson looked back at them with a smile of triumph. Tell Max his grandson died for nothing, he said coldly. The Omnitrix Prime will be mine. And when I return, this reality will be the first to fall. Before anyone could reach him, he stepped through the breach. The portal collapsed behind him with a thunderclap of energy that knocked everyone off their feet. No! Vexler screamed, lunging for the collapsed portal. The coordinates. We needed those coordinates. Rook recovered first, subduing the scientist with swift efficiency. Dr. Emil Vexler, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient beings, unauthorized dimensional experimentation, and conspiracy in the death of Ben Tennyson. As the immediate threat subsided, Mako transformed back to human form, the Omnitrix beeping softly as it reset. The laboratory lay in ruins around them, equipment destroyed, dimensional technology shattered, and most importantly, Eclipse's operations on K-9 station thoroughly dismantled. We stopped them, Mako said, catching their breath. But Carl got away. Into a random reality, Gwen pointed out. Without Vexler's targeting system, he has no way to find reality 7723 specifically. He could have ended up anywhere in the multiverse. A problem for another day, Rook decided. Our primary mission was successful. Eclipse's operation is compromised, Vexler is in custody, and their dimensional technology is destroyed. Mako approached the remains of the monitoring station, examining the screens that had shown dozens of alternate bends. All were dark now, connections severed by the destruction of the equipment. He admitted it, Mako said quietly. Carl arranged Ben's death. Created the explosion that supposedly killed him and destroyed the Omnitrix. Gwen's expression hardened. We suspected as much. The evidence never quite added up, how the Omnitrix could have been destroyed when it has safeguards against exactly that kind of damage. But why? Julie asked, ship detaching from her to examine the ruined equipment. Why would an alternate version of Ben's father want to kill him? To create a vacancy, Mako realized. He needed the Omnitrix to be available, probably planning to take it himself. But it chose me instead. That explains his interest in you, Gwen said. You weren't just an obstacle, you had what he wanted. As they secured the laboratory and prepared Vexler for transport, Max's voice came through their comms, the rust bucket having moved closer once the fighting began. Status report, he requested. Mission successful, Rook replied. Dimensional technology neutralized, Vexler in custody. We've confirmed Ben's death was orchestrated by an alternate version of Carl Tennyson, who escaped through a dimensional rift. Understood, Max said, his voice tight with emotion at the confirmation of his grandson's murder. Prepare for extraction. We have Eclipse vessels approaching the station. Time to leave. As they made their way back to the transport pod, fighting occasional resistance from remaining Eclipse personnel, Mako felt a strange sense of closure mixed with new purpose. The mystery of Ben's death was solved, at least partially. The immediate threat of Eclipse accessing Reality 7723 was neutralized. But Carl Tennyson was still out there, somewhere in the multiverse, potentially gathering resources for another attempt. And Mako now understood that the Omnitrix hadn't chosen them randomly, it had specifically rejected Carl, despite his biological connection to Ben, and selected Mako instead. You know, Kevin said when they finally returned to the rust bucket, Eclipse reinforcements closing in behind them, for your first major space mission, that wasn't half bad. Thanks, Mako said dryly. Next time I'll try to keep the station intact. There's always room for improvement, Kevin grinned, clapping them on the shoulder. As the rust bucket accelerated away from K-9, leaving the compromised Eclipse facility behind, Mako found a quiet corner to process everything that had happened. The Omnitrix hummed softly against their wrist, almost comfortingly. You knew, didn't you? Mako whispered to it. You chose me because you rejected him. The device pulsed once, the closest thing to direct confirmation it could give. Mako smiled faintly, understanding growing. The Omnitrix hadn't just been seeking a new wielder after Ben's death, it had been specifically avoiding Carl Tennyson, searching for someone who would use its power as Ben had, to protect, not conquer. Gwen found them there, offering a water bottle and sitting beside them. Heavy day. Yeah, Mako agreed, taking a grateful sip. Finding out Ben was murdered by his alternate reality dad who wants to conquer the multiverse definitely ranks up there on the weird scale. Welcome to the Tennyson family drama, Gwen said with a sad smile. Never simple. I'm starting to get that, Mako nodded. So what happens now? Now. Gwen considered. We take what we learned back to Earth. Study Vexler's remaining tech, try to understand exactly what Carl is capable of, and prepare for when he inevitably tries again. And me? Mako asked. Where do I fit in all this? Gwen studied them thoughtfully. You know, when the Omnitrix first appeared on your wrist, I was skeptical. Ben was special. Not just because of the watch, but because of who he was. I didn't think anyone could truly replace him. No one can, Mako agreed. True, Gwen nodded. But that's not what you're doing, is it? You're not replacing Ben, you're continuing what he started. In your own way, with your own style. She smiled. And after today, I'd say you're doing a pretty good job of it. The words meant more coming from Gwen than almost anyone else. As Ben's cousin and longtime teammate, her approval carried significant weight. Thanks, Mako said simply. That means a lot. Don't let it go to your head, Gwen warned, though her smile softened the words. You've still got a lot to learn. But. She glanced at the Omnitrix, I think it chose well. As the rust bucket headed back toward Earth, Mako reflected on how much had changed in just a few short weeks. From conspiracy theorist to Omnitrix wielder, from outsider to team member, from Ben Tennyson fan to Ben Tennyson successor. The journey was just beginning, with multiversal threats on the horizon and a legacy to uphold. But for the first time since the Omnitrix attached itself to their wrist, Mako felt ready for whatever came next. The plumber base buzzed with activity as the team debriefed, each member reporting their observations from the K-9 mission. Wexler had been placed in high-security containment, though he remained uncooperative, refusing to provide details about Carl Tennyson's plans or capabilities. Mako sat quietly during most of the debriefing, mentally processing everything they'd learned. The revelation that Ben had been deliberately murdered by an alternate version of his own father still felt surreal, like something from one of their conspiracy theories rather than actual fact. Based on what we've gathered, Max was saying, Carl Tennyson's amalgam device appears to be an attempt to replicate Omnitrix functionality without Galvan technology. Inferior, but still dangerous. And now he's loose in the multiverse, Kevin added grimly. Without specific targeting capabilities, Cooper pointed out. The breach collapsed without establishing coordinates. He could have ended up in any one of countless realities. That doesn't mean he won't find his way to reality 7723 eventually, Azimuth said, joining the discussion via hologram. The multiverse follows patterns. A determined traveler can navigate with sufficient patience and technology. So we haven't stopped him, Mako concluded. Just delayed him. Sometimes delay is victory enough, Max said. It gives us time to prepare, to understand what we're facing. As the debriefing concluded, Mako approached Max privately. There's something I need to ask you. Max nodded, leading them to a quieter area. About Carl? About why the Omnitrix chose me, Mako said. It wasn't random, was it? It specifically rejected Carl despite his genetic connection to Ben. Max studied them thoughtfully. The Omnitrix has always been more than just technology. Azimuth designed it with specific ethical parameters. It doesn't just seek genetic compatibility, it seeks worthy intent. But why me specifically? Out of everyone on Earth? That, came Azimuth's voice as the Galvan approached on his hovering platform, is something I've been analyzing since you first walked into Gwen's apartment. And? Mako prompted when Azimuth didn't immediately continue. The Omnitrix contains aspects of Ben's consciousness, Azimuth explained. Not a copy or a clone, but impressions, ethical frameworks, decision patterns, emotional responses. When seeking a new wielder, it wasn't just looking for physical compatibility. It was looking for someone Ben would approve of, Mako realized. More specifically, Azimuth corrected, someone who embodied what Ben valued most, curiosity, determination, and most importantly, the desire to help others without seeking power for its own sake. Your years studying Ben weren't just fan behavior, Max added. You were trying to understand him, to learn from him. The Omnitrix recognized that connection. Mako absorbed this, a new perspective on their years of research. What they'd thought was just fascination had been something deeper, a genuine admiration for Ben's values and choices. So what now? Mako asked finally. We wait for Carl to make his next move. We prepare, Max corrected. You continue training, mastering the Omnitrix. We analyze Eclipse's technology, develop countermeasures. And we stay vigilant. And if Carl does find reality 7723? If he gets his hands on the Omnitrix Prime? Then, Azimuth said gravely, we will face the greatest threat the multiverse has ever known. And you, Mako Chen, will be at the center of stopping it. The weight of responsibility should have been crushing. Weeks ago, it would have been. But now, after everything they'd experienced, the battles fought, the bonds formed, the confidence gained, Mako felt ready to face whatever came next. I won't let you down, they said simply. Either of you. We know, Max replied with a small smile. That's why the Omnitrix chose you. Later that evening, Mako stood on the roof of Plumber HQ, watching the sunset over Bellwood. The city lights were beginning to twinkle on as darkness fell, a reminder of all the ordinary lives they were now responsible for protecting. The Omnitrix hummed softly against their wrist, a now familiar presence that had become almost comforting. In just a few short weeks, it had transformed from foreign object to natural extension of themselves. Nice view, Kevin said, joining them at the railing. Though I prefer the one from orbit. Show off, Mako replied with a small smile. Here to check on me? Nah, Kevin shrugged, leaning against the railing. Just avoiding paperwork. Rook's a stickler for mission reports. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Kevin spoke again. You did good out there today. Ben would have approved. You think so? Mako asked, genuinely curious. Despite everything, there was still a part of them that wondered if they could ever truly live up to Ben's legacy. Yeah, Kevin said simply. You're different than him, more calculated, less impulsive. But the core stuff? The things that really mattered? You've got those. Coming from Kevin, who had known Ben better than most, the words carried significant weight. Thanks. That means a lot. Don't get sappy on me, Kevin warned, though without real heat. Just stating facts. Besides, the team needs you now. With Carl out there planning who knows what, we need every advantage we can get. Do you think he'll be back? Mako asked. Kevin's expression darkened. Count on it. Guys like that don't give up. And now he's got a personal grudge against you for wrecking his plans. Great, Mako sighed. Add that to my growing list of interdimensional enemies. Welcome to the hero business, Kevin chuckled. Speaking of which, Julie was looking for you earlier. Something about Ship wanting to interface with the Omnitrix for analysis. That sounds, potentially disastrous, Mako noted with concern. Probably, Kevin agreed cheerfully. But might be useful too. Ship's understanding of technology is instinctive in ways even Azimuth can't always predict. As they headed back inside, Mako reflected on how quickly they'd come to feel at home among Ben's former team. Gwen's quiet wisdom, Kevin's gruff mentorship, Rook's methodical training, Julie's technical insights, Max's steady leadership, each had contributed to Mako's rapid growth as both Omnitrix wielder and plumber. They found Julie in Cooper's lab, Ship perched on her shoulder in his compact form. The galvanic mechamorph chirped excitedly when Mako entered. There you are, Julie greeted them. Ship's been insistent about examining your connection to the Omnitrix. I think he senses something unusual about it. More unusual than everything else about it? Mako asked Riley. Specifically, the adaptive interface, Julie explained. Ship thinks it might be possible to enhance the integration, give you more intuitive control. Ship beeped affirmatively, stretching from Julie's shoulder toward Mako's wrist. Is that safe? Mako asked, hesitant to let the symbiotic alien merge with the Omnitrix. Ship wouldn't suggest it if it wasn't, Julie assured them. He's more cautious than he seems. After a moment's consideration, Mako extended their arm. All right. But at the first sign of anything weird, we stop. Ship chirped happily, flowing onto Mako's arm and partially merging with the Omnitrix. The sensation was strange, a tingling awareness as the mechamorph interfaced with the device's systems. Images flashed through Mako's mind, aliens they hadn't used yet, capabilities they hadn't explored, aspects of the Omnitrix they hadn't understood. It wasn't just a transformation device, it was a repository of knowledge, a communication tool, and in some ways, a living thing evolving alongside its user. When Ship detached a few minutes later, returning to Julie, Mako blinked in surprise. The Omnitrix looked unchanged externally, but it felt different, more responsive, more aligned with their thoughts. That was intense, Mako said, flexing their fingers as the sensation settled. Ship says your connection is unique, Julie translated as the mechamorph beeped and chirped. Different from Ben's in fundamental ways. He thinks you might eventually access functions Ben never could. Like what? Mako asked curiously. Ship isn't sure, Julie admitted. But he senses potential for deeper integration, more intuitive control. The Omnitrix is adapting to you as much as you're adapting to it. The revelation wasn't entirely surprising, Azimuth had hinted at something similar, but hearing it confirmed by Ship's direct interface made it more concrete. "Thanks, Ship," Mako said genuinely. "That was actually really helpful." The mechamorph chirped happily, bouncing on Julie's shoulder. His enthusiasm was infectious, and Mako found themselves smiling despite the weight of recent revelations. "You know," Julie said as they left the lab, "when Ben first got the Omnitrix, it took him months to develop any real control. You're progressing much faster." "I had better teachers," Mako pointed out. "And more motivation. Ben was 10 when he found it. I'm 17 with an interdimensional threat hanging over my head." "True," Julie acknowledged. "But it's more than that. You approached this differently from the beginning, not as a tool or a weapon, but as a partner. That matters." The observation resonated with what Mako had been feeling, that the relationship between Wielder and Omnitrix was symbiotic rather than merely functional. Each transformation, each shared experience, deepened that connection. As they walked the corridors of Plumber HQ, passing aliens and humans working side by side, Mako felt a growing sense of belonging. This world of intergalactic law enforcement, of heroes and villains and a complex territory between, had once been something they only researched and theorized about. Now they were living it, contributing to it. "By the way," Julie said, interrupting their thoughts, "Gwen mentioned you haven't been home in weeks. Your mom's been told you're at an exclusive internship program, but that cover won't hold forever." "I know," Mako sighed. "It's complicated. How do you tell your mom you're now the wielder of the most powerful device in the universe and fighting interdimensional threats?" Carefully, Julie advised with a small smile. "But family matters, Mako. Take it from someone who tried to balance normal life with alien craziness. Keeping those connections is what keeps you grounded." The advice struck a chord. In the whirlwind of recent events, Mako had almost forgotten the ordinary life they'd lived just weeks ago. Parents who worried, friends who wondered where they'd disappeared to, a bedroom still filled with Ben 10 research materials and conspiracy theory boards. "Maybe it's time for a visit home," Mako conceded. "Assuming no multiversal crises in the next 24 hours. "I'll have Rook put it in your official schedule," Julie teased. "Between combat training and alien biology class." As they parted ways, Mako found themselves wandering to the memorial hall, where Ben's hologram still rotated slowly in the center of the atrium. They'd visited less frequently lately, too busy with training and missions to maintain their daily ritual. "Hey," Mako said softly to the image. "Sorry it's been a while. Been busy saving the multiverse, as one does." The hologram, of course, didn't respond, but there was comfort in the one-sided conversation nonetheless. "We found out what happened to you," Mako continued. "Who was responsible? It doesn't make it easier, but at least there's some clarity now." They glanced down at the Omnitrix. "And I think I'm starting to understand why this chose me. Not to replace you, no one could do that, but to continue what you started. In my own way." Around them, Plumber agents went about their duties, occasionally nodding respectfully to Mako as they passed. 3 weeks ago, they had been an anonymous civilian. Now they were recognized, respected, not just as the Omnitrix wielder, but as a valuable team member in their own right. "I won't let you down," Mako promised the silent hologram. "Whatever's coming with Carl, with Eclipse, with this whole multiversal mess, I'll face it. We'll face it." As if in response, the Omnitrix pulsed warmly against their wrist, not activating, just acknowledging. That subtle communication had become more frequent lately, another sign of their deepening connection. Max found them there a short while later, expression serious but not urgent. "Thought you might be here. Just checking in," Mako said, gesturing to the hologram. "Keeping him updated." Max smiled faintly. He would appreciate that. After a pause, he added, "Cooper's made progress analyzing the data we recovered from K-9. Thought you'd want to know." Mako immediately straightened. "What did he find?" "Come see for yourself," Max invited, leading the way back to the Situation Room. There, Cooper was projecting a complex map of the multiverse, highlighting specific realities and the pathways between them. Based on Vexler's research and what we recovered from K9, I've been able to map the most likely route Carl would take through the multiverse if he's still targeting reality 7723. Can we track him? Mako asked eagerly. Not precisely, Cooper admitted. Dimensional travel doesn't leave consistent signatures. But we can monitor the weak points along this path. If he passes through, we might detect the disturbance. So we play defense, Mako concluded. Wait for him to make a move, then respond. For now, Max confirmed. But we're not just waiting. We're preparing. Azimuth is working on countermeasures for the amalgam technology. Rook is developing tactical responses to various scenarios. Gwen is researching dimensional stability spells. And me? Mako asked. You, Max said, placing a hand on their shoulder, continue becoming the hero the Omnitrix chose you to be. Master its capabilities. Develop your own style. Be ready. The directness of Max's faith in them was still sometimes surprising. 3 weeks ago, he had been skeptical of Mako's ability to handle the responsibility. Now he spoke with confidence about their role in what might be a multiversal conflict. I will be, Mako promised. We all will be. 2 days later, Mako stood on the front porch of their childhood home, heart racing faster than it had during recent alien battles. Facing interdimensional threats somehow seemed easier than facing their mother after weeks of minimal contact. The Omnitrix was concealed beneath a long-sleeved hoodie, not a permanent solution, but enough for a brief visit home. The cover story Max had arranged portrayed Mako as participating in an exclusive internship program with limited communication allowed. Taking a deep breath, they knocked, a strange formality at their own home, but it had been nearly a month since they'd last been here. The door flew open almost immediately, revealing Mako's mother, concern, relief, and irritation warring on her face in equal measure. 3 weeks, she said without preamble. 3 weeks of cryptic messages and vague explanations. You'd better have brought more than just excuses, Mako-chin. Hi, Mom, Mako replied weakly. I missed you too. She pulled them into a fierce hug, the irritation giving way to relief. Get in here. You're too thin. Have they not been feeding you at this mysterious internship? As Mako stepped inside, the familiar scents and sights of home washed over them, a stark contrast to the high-tech, alien-filled environment they'd grown accustomed to at Plumber HQ. I've been eating, Mako defended, following their mother to the kitchen where she immediately began preparing food. Just been busy. Really busy. So busy you couldn't call properly. Couldn't visit. There was hurt beneath the questions, and Mako felt a pang of guilt. It's complicated, Mom, they said, taking a seat at the kitchen counter. The internship is intense. Limited communication protocols. Security clearances. That kind of thing. She gave them a skeptical look. Since when do tech companies treat interns like they're in a spy movie? It's specialized work, Mako hedged. Cutting-edge stuff. Their mother sighed, setting a plate of food before them. Eat. Then maybe try telling me what's really going on. Mako blinked in surprise. What do you mean? Mako, I'm your mother. I've known you were hiding something since you called from the internship the first time. Your voice gets higher. When you're not telling the whole truth. Always has, since you were 5. Caught off guard by her perceptiveness, Mako fumbled for words. I'm not, I mean, it really is an internship. Sort of. Sort of, she repeated flatly. And does this sort of internship have anything to do with why there are plumber agents watching our house? Mako nearly choked on their food. What? There aren't, black SUV across the street for the past 3 weeks. 2 agents, rotating shifts. They try to be subtle, but this is a small neighborhood. She crossed her arms. I'm not an idiot, Mako. The realization that Max had assigned protection detail to their family without mentioning it caught Mako by surprise. Though in retrospect, it made perfect sense. Eclipse knew who they were, and family was an obvious potential target. I can explain, Mako began, then stopped. Could they? The plumber's secrecy protocols were clear. Civilians weren't supposed to know about alien threats unless absolutely necessary. But this was their mother. And apparently, she was more observant than even the plumbers had anticipated. Making a decision, Mako carefully rolled up their sleeve, revealing the Omnitrix. It started with this. Their mother stared at the device, recognition dawning slowly. That looks like, but that's not possible. That belonged to Ben Tennyson, Mako finished. Yeah. And now it belongs to me. What followed was a careful, edited explanation, finding the Omnitrix, being recruited by the plumbers, training to use its powers. Mako omitted the more dangerous details, the interdimensional threats, Carl Tennyson's involvement in Ben's death, the fact that they had nearly died multiple times in recent weeks. Throughout the explanation, their mother remained surprisingly calm, asking occasional clarifying questions but mostly just listening. When Mako finally finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So, she said finally, my child is now a superhero with an alien watch, fighting threats to the planet with a secret organization of space police. Put that way, it sounded absurd. Yes. I know it's a lot to take in. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Start the next chapter when ready. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.